Mic testing 1 2. Mic testing 1 2. 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 Testing 1 2.
Distinguished delegates, could you please take your seats because we would like to start the third session. Could you please sit down and take your seats? Before handing over to the chairs, I would just like to mention that the list of speakers is open. After the panelists, we have a number of speakers, but anybody who would like to inscribe, you are most welcome. We have a full morning starting now through to 1 o'clock. So we have a good 3 hours. And depending on how the discussions proceed, which we hope will be, as was the case yesterday, rich and fruitful, that we will be able to perhaps take a coffee break. We will see how we go. But again, we'd very much encourage those who are not able to speak so far to inscribe on the list of speakers so we can have a full discussion. So with that, I'd like to hand over to our distinguished chairs to please start the proceedings. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Okay. Thank you all for coming, and we must apologize for starting late. My name is Christian Achaleke, and I'll be co-chairing this session with my good friend, Edouard Elman. We were together some days ago in Cameroon, working on the peace process in my country. And as we all know, this session is actually looking at young people and the perspectives on strengthening their resilience, you know, especially when it comes to the thematic of violent extremism conducive to terrorism in the African continent, which of course is a major challenge which young people have been called at the forefront of this. And young people have been victimized in this process and have been trapped and sometimes find themselves, committing acts which is out of their will, you know. And as a young person, a young Cameroonian, this means a lot to me. Coming from a country where from 2014, a lot of things changed in my country, where in the far north of the country, the Boko Haram terrorist movement had to, you know, sway into my country. And from there, we've had a lot of challenges, issues around refugees, issues around internally displaced persons, loss of life, loss of properties. And with all of this happening, I have had the opportunity to be at the forefront of this process, working with young people. And I must say that young people have been able to do amazing things to see how they can curb these challenges which we are facing. And most recently, in the northwest and southwest regions of my country, we are also facing tremendous challenges of violence and insecurity, which of course is very important to the kind of work that we do. I think this thematic is very important to me personally because of my background. And growing up as a child, living in a community which was plagued by violence and seeing violence on hand and living it. To me, it was something which it was very difficult to come out of. But I believe in that power of resilience because despite what happened when I was younger, today I see myself working as a champion for peace in my country, engaging with young people, giving opportunities to them, and trying to make things work. But all of these can only happen with young people because we have been able to create our own spaces. We've been able to group ourselves into social movements, into civil societies to make this work. And it's one thing which we've been able to have amazing results. This thematic is also very important to me because of the kind of work the organization that I work for has been doing within this process. I mean, we have had the opportunity to work one-on-one with some of these young people who have been part of these movements, and we speak to them, we listen to what actually pushed them. And most often, it's our own fault. You know, it's issues of how parents have not been able to play their own role, and how they have social and economic challenges, which sometimes we just need to respond to. And responding to these challenges, we've seen a lot of young people, saying we don't want to go back to violence. And we have the opportunity to work in prisons in Cameroon, and we designed a concept which we call prisonpreneurship. And the whole idea, it's working with young violent offenders in prisons to give them an alternative to violence through entrepreneurship. And today, these young people can produce from fashion designing clothing lines which they have a convict brand, which is a clothing line which they have, from many other things. And their products today do sell nationally and internationally. I mean, these are young people who have been abandoned. These are young people that we think that they are troublemakers. But just a little opportunity that we gave to them. Today, they are also job providers while in prison, and they are also raising income, helping themselves and their families. I mean, these are the kind of things that we've been able to live and to see every day. And that's what gives us hope, that young people are already doing the work which is necessary for us to ensure that we have violent-free communities. I would also like to highlight our work which we do in the far north region of the country, looking at the current Boko Haram insurgency, issues of cultural intolerance, religious intolerance has been a big issue. And so we are working with children and working with community leaders and religious leaders to be able to engage in intercultural dialogues, where we work in schools, and all of this is driven by young people. And I'm 29 years old, and for 11 years of this work, it has been young people from different walks of life, different backgrounds, but one vision: to ensure that we have violent-free communities. And they are working as volunteers, working for no pay, and this is all working for them. We also have the kind of work we do around hate speech, because if you look at the current trend of conflict in my country, hate speech, misinformation, fake news has been a major issue. And so we do work around with influencers, from artists to celebrities. We work with them, we give them capacity on how they can develop content. And today we are seeing a massive change in narratives coming from them, and we are seeing more content developed by these young people. But all of this cannot happen on its own. The whole issue of partnership has been very, very important. And by these, I would like to state, few amazing partnerships which we've had, which comes in the light of capacity building, because it's a major challenge for young people, which comes in the light of funding, and which comes in the light of facilitating even access within our governments, because it's usually a big challenge. And we've had the opportunity to, I'm glad to have the Global Center on Cooperative Security on the panel, because we've been able to work together to see how we work on rehabilitation and reintegration of young people who have been part of this violence. And we've had experiences of training with the International Institute of Justice and Rule of Law, where we've been able to build a capacity as young people. Much more young people are having a place to learn, because when you go to the field, when you go on the ground, these are the kind of challenges that comes. And with the little capacity we get, we have been able to do this. What if you give us more? What if you give us more funding? I'm very sure that much more is going to come. And also, we've had amazing support from the Commonwealth CVE unit, and the Commonwealth Secretariat itself, supporting young people to be able to break the barriers, especially when it comes to government. Because sometimes it's difficult to get this access. But this has been able to facilitate this amazing work. In Cameroon, young people are doing great things. Across the world, young people are doing amazing things to ensure that our world is violence-free. But these can only happen if we have more of this partnership, if we have more of this support. I also want to talk about the rise of new networks, which is very important. And I want to applaud every stakeholder here who believes in youth network, because personally I've seen how these have been able to transform the lives of young people, has been able to reshape conversation at local and global level. By these, we have examples of the United Network of Young Peace Builders and the Commonwealth Youth Peace Ambassadors Network. I would just like to share with you how young people were able to drive change at the highest level within the Commonwealth. When the UN Security Council Resolution 2250 was adopted, and young people across the Commonwealth sat and said, what can we do to ensure that our heads of government also acknowledge this? We had to mount, and we worked together, and we did advocacy. And at the end, we were at the head of government meeting, and the head of government pledged to support young people to finance young people to ensure that the UN Security Council resolution on youth peace and security is implemented. I mean, this is one example among many examples of how young people have been working closely with policymakers, have been working on advocacy, which is very important. So this is just to tell you that our work does not end only in the field. We work both in the field, we work at policy level, and we are very happy that we find ourselves here today. Because most often, conversations like this will meet people not from our generation, it's the fact. But I'm very delighted that today, Ilwad and I, we are here to chair this session. I think this is a clear example of what young people are doing. And of course, we are going to share amazing stories of what we have been doing. I will not want to take a lot of the time, but I have two messages for young people. Young people must understand we need to keep creating our own spaces. We cannot sit and wait for these spaces to be given to us. Create the spaces, and the governments who criticize you would follow you, because there's no one in the world who does not like impact. And second thing for our policymakers, our donors, and all the well-wishers, you need to remember that the barriers you put on this funding prevents young people from getting the support. Sometimes you ask audit statements. Where do we get this audit statement? We run under $10,000 budget. How do we get audit statement? Just believe in us. There's enough evidence for you to understand that the little support we get can change a lot. So these are just a few messages I had to share, and I would like to turn to my colleague, Ilwa Delman, to also make her opening remark. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christian, and good morning to everyone here. It's an honor to be here with you all protocols duly observed. It's a pleasure to be here with you on this debate particularly, and to be co-moderating this important discussion with my friend and colleague, Christian Achileke, who I was actually with just about 10 days ago in Cameroon for a training that his organization was leading on the role of youth in leading the peace process in Cameroon. He called me while I was in Mogadishu and asked for me to come and share the model, the lessons that we've learned in Somalia on rehabilitation and reintegration of young people, and to see what insights that we could provide to the newly established DDR Commission in Cameroon. He also called on our brother Wani from South Sudan, and our brother Ravi from the Central African Republic, and our brother from northern Nigeria. He asked us all to come and to support a youth-driven and African-driven peace process, and to share what we know from countries that have been in conflict zones for much longer than any of us have been alive, and to see how we could support other young people that are now in new and emerging crises. I was quite struck by that experience, hearing from young people stories that I've heard too many times in my country as well too, of entire villages being burnt down, of massive displacements, of young people being forced to pick up arms. Everything that we were hearing in those rooms during the training in Cameroon was too eerily reminiscent of the situation in South Sudan, northern Nigeria, Somalia, and Central African Republic. But what I saw in that moment was that Achileke, who's far too humble for all that he does, is that he recognized that solutions to the conflicts in Africa can be found in Africa, and that we don't need to reinvent the wheel at times. Through partnerships and collaborations, we can work together for a common goal of peace. He also recognized the importance of prevention and not letting the situation in Cameroon deteriorate like those of our countries in protracted conflicts. And finally, he also realized that young people are not just practitioners. They're not just victims or beneficiaries at best. They are experts in the field. And he called on us to share what we learned. So I'm grateful to see him here again, because he doesn't just talk the talk, he's coming from the field and walking the walk. And that's what I think we need in discussions like this. And it's because of actions like his and all the other incredible young people in his country and mine and beyond on this continent that are doing the real work every day, that over the past few decades, we are now seeing an increasing attention that has been paid to the role of youth in peace and security. It's because of the strong youth movement globally that we are now seeing resolutions like 2250 and the subsequent resolutions 2419 emerging, that we're seeing commitments from the African Union, strategies being developed on the role of young people being meaningfully included in peace and security. We are here today having this conversation because of the spirit, the focus, and the savvy of young people. It's because of young people having maintained a clear message of what they need, having mobilized nations, having rallied support from politicians and thought leaders, and creating global movements that these resolutions are being put into place. And why we're not asking the question anymore of why should young people be involved in these processes, or should they be? But now we're asking how. How can we actually operationalize and harness this potential that exists? Through my work in Somalia at the Undp Center, where we've worked for years on disarmament, rehabilitation, and reintegration from a community perspective, and have now begun to white paper our models and approaches and taken it upon ourselves to train other young people that are in other active conflict zones to teach what we've learned. And through my role as an advisor to the UN Secretary General on his peacebuilding fund, I have engaged with young people, young peace builders all around the world, and particularly in Africa, that are taking the risks every day, that are innovating and leading communities to be peaceful every day. But if we are going to come here and convene here and gather on the subject matter of prevention and countering violent extremism in Africa, and particularly talk about the role of youth in these processes, we have to talk about the real elephants in the room and not just tippy-toe around them. So I want to draw your attention to the UNDP Regional Service Centers for Africa research study that was done just a few years ago on the journey to extremism, where we saw empirical evidence. I think a number of more than 71% of the respondents had mentioned that it was government action, securitization of communities, and human rights abuses as being the key drivers to radicalization in Africa, as opposed to religion or lack of jobs. I want to also remind you of the Frontlines global report, which was developed by the UNDP as well, under the umbrella of the UNDP Youth Global Program. And this report put forward so much data and field case studies and mapping of youth-led actions and giving concrete examples and literature reviews of the role young people are already taking in CVE and PVE and how they're understanding their aspirations and perceptions and how you, as both donors, as CSOs, as UN agencies, and member states can actually improve programming. And finally, last but certainly not least, what you should also add to your reading list if you haven't yet, is the Missing Peace Report, which is the progress study on the Resolution 2250 by youth globally, for youth globally, and for you to take into account when how to operationalize and develop an implementation strategy for these resolutions. I'm mentioning these different bodies of literature because we are well beyond the point now where we still need to look for evidence of can young people play a role in these processes. The evidence exists. So as the saying goes, once you know better, you have to do better. If we look around this continent, at times it does feel like it's burning from every corner. The economic costs of conflicts is crippling Africa from every side. And Sudan losing billions in a span of a few months is just one small example of that. So with all of the evidence of the role, the power, and the benefit and experience that young people bring to PCVE that already exists, I look forward today to a discussion that again focuses on tangible solutions and practical solutions on how we can engage young people in this space. We have an opportunity today to not just add to the plethora of lip service that exists on this specific thematic area. We want to invite you all to join the debate. So as we heard from the first remark from UNOCT, the speaker list is open. If you want to add to the discussion, if you have ideas, if you want to build partnerships, please do make sure that you add your name to the list. But let's make this a very interactive conversation and practically talking about the way forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eloat, for setting a powerful pace and looking at the whole research part of it and and talking about our work. It was a lot of flowers on me. So I think before we start, I would like to recognize the fact that we have amazing panelists here today, and who will be sharing real-time experience of the work which they have been involved in, to be able to achieve this great objective of young people being at the forefront of building peace and preventing and countering violent extremism, which is very important. And just some few procedural issues. I think each of the panelists would have 6 minutes each to share their brilliant work, and of course, during the period for the remarks, my colleague Iluet is going to be in charge of that. And without wasting so much time, I want us to get into our panel discussion, and we're going to start with the first panelist. We are going to be hearing from the Director for Strategic Affairs, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Republic of Burkina Faso, Ms. Aminata Cissé. Ma'am, the floor is all yours.
Merci, frères et sœurs coprésidents, chers participants. Je voudrais d'abord saisir l'opportunité pour remercier et féliciter tous les travailleurs onusiens et kenyans qui ont mis ensemble leurs efforts pour que cette conférence soit une réalité. Mon intervention lors de ce panel va porter sur 3 principaux points, à savoir la présentation de la situation sécuritaire au Sahel, le cadre propice au développement de la résilience des jeunes face à la radicalisation et le rôle de la jeunesse dans la résilience face à la radicalisation. Il faut dire que depuis 2015, le Sahel est gravement éprouvé sur le plan sécuritaire. Les attaques terroristes sont devenues presque quotidiennes, faisant de nombreux morts et blessés. Les États et les populations ne restent pas bras croisés, chacun tente à sa manière de résister à la situation en développant une résilience. Notamment les jeunes développent également en leur sein des activités de résilience. Mais avant d'aller à cette résilience des jeunes, comme je l'ai annoncé, on va d'abord faire un tour de la situation sécuritaire au Sahel et également présenter le cadre juridique et institutionnel qui peut permettre à cette jeunesse de s'exprimer. Donc, pour le seul cas du Burkina Faso, entre 2015 et 2019, notez bien, on a vécu 201 attaques terroristes, pour le seul cas du Burkina Faso. 352 opérations d'assassinat ciblées, 56 enlèvements, 14 attaques par engins explosifs improvisés et 16 attaques contre des établissements scolaires. En conséquence, au Burkina aujourd'hui, plus de 2000 écoles ont dû fermer leurs portes, privant 362 152 enfants d'éducation. En juin 2019, on a enregistré plus de 150 000 personnes déplacées internes dues à la situation sécuritaire invivable. La situation dans les autres pays du Sahel, notamment au Mali et au Niger, sont quasi similaires. Si les premières attaques étaient organisées de l'extérieur du pays et du Sahel, il est aujourd'hui accepté que les terroristes ont recruté et formé des acteurs à l'intérieur des pays, dont majoritairement des jeunes. La radicalisation au Sahel a une source sociale et religieuse. Et le passage de la radicalisation à l'extrémisme violent est le résultat d'une instrumentalisation. Premièrement, on peut parler de la radicalisation par frustration sociale due à l'insatisfaction de certains besoins vitaux, à l'injustice, à la malgouvernance, qui conduit beaucoup à une radicalité positive et passive, et qui s'exprime par une grogne sociale, mais ils ne passent pas à des actes violents tant qu'ils n'ont pas été instrumentalisés par des acteurs terroristes. Le deuxième cas de radicalisation Il s'agit de croyants de bonne foi, mais limités dans leurs croyances des écritures religieuses. Donc, ces croyants de bonne foi sont également radicalisés à dessein par les terroristes qui utilisent ce canal pour leur recrutement. Donc, dans tous les cas, les terroristes instrumentalisent les radicalisations, disons passives, en identifiant un coupable, définissant la forme de la réaction, et organisant, finançant et conduisant les opérations violentes dites de riposte à des situations données. Des deux types de radicalisation, on retiendra que dans la lutte, il faut s'attaquer aux sources de radicalisation, mais surtout éviter l'instrumentalisation des radicalisés et leur conduite vers l'extrémisme violent. On note également que la jeunesse est la cible de prédilection de la radicalisation, mais également le bras valide de l'exécution des actes de violence et du terrorisme. De même, si les actions concertées comme celle de l'organisation du G5 Sahel visent à réduire les activités transfrontalières des groupes terroristes, les pays et les populations, au plan interne, développent des actions de résilience contre l'expansion de la radicalisation et de l'extrémisme violent conduisant au terrorisme. Quel est le rôle de la jeunesse dans cette résilience? Mais avant d'aller à cette résilience, on va faire le tour du cadre propice à cette expression de la résilience des jeunes. On va aller au cadre juridique de la résilience et également au cadre institutionnel. Pour une efficacité de la résilience, les actions des différents acteurs doivent s'organiser dans un cadre juridictionnel et institutionnel précis. Au Burkina Faso, le cadre juridique de résilience des jeunes face à la radicalisation découle des textes adoptés au plan national et également international qui visent à éradiquer ce phénomène. Le cadre institutionnel de lutte contre l'extrémisme violent et la radicalisation au Burkina est multisectoriel et intègre plusieurs acteurs gouvernementaux, non gouvernementaux et la société civile. Les cadres juridiques et institutionnels permettent d'encadrer la lutte contre la radicalisation et l'extrémisme violent, notamment par l'élaboration de politiques efficaces de lutte contre la pauvreté, l'organisation des services publics chargés de l'encadrement des jeunes en intégrant des dimensions participatives, la promotion du développement équilibré de toutes les régions du pays, la promotion de la répartition équitable des ressources, la restauration de la confiance entre les jeunes et les structures de gouvernance, la réforme des curricula scolaires pour inclure des questions liées à la violence et l'extrémisme violent. Quant à la jeunesse elle-même, organisée en association ou individuellement, elle prend progressivement conscience qu'elle est la pièce centrale dans la lutte contre la radicalisation et l'extrémisme violent. Elle développe des actions allant dans le sens du renforcement de la discipline et du civisme en son sein, du respect des règles et lois de la vie communautaire, de l'adhésion aux programmes et initiatives développés par l'État, de la communication et de la collaboration avec les forces de défense et de sécurité, notamment en signalant et dénonçant toute tentative de recrutement d'un des leurs. Des exemples d'associations de jeunes et de médias qui inscrivent aujourd'hui dans leur programme des actions de sensibilisation sur les méthodes de recrutement des terroristes, la déconstruction des thèses et théories religieuses de la violence et du terrorisme existent. Rien que la semaine passée, il y a un réseau panafricain qui s'est créé à Ouagadougou pour travailler dans le cadre de la sensibilisation au niveau des jeunes pour éviter leur radicalisation et leur utilisation pour des actes violents. En conclusion, je dirais que la jeunesse, qui représente l'espoir de l'Afrique et du Sahel en particulier, a sa partition à jouer en termes de résilience contre la radicalisation et l'extrémisme violent. Mais pour que cette jeunesse puisse jouer pleinement son rôle, elle doit être accompagnée. Le cadre nécessaire pour que cette jeunesse puisse s'exprimer doit être créé par les États et leurs partenaires. C'est tout comme le cas de la dividende démographique. Une jeunesse laissée à elle-même, sans capacité, ne peut en aucun cas jouer le rôle qu'on attend d'elle dans la résilience contre la radicalisation. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Aminata. C'est vraiment un réel plaisir de partager cette expérience avec vous, parce que ça indique vraiment la participation des jeunes dans votre pays. Merci beaucoup. And we are going to turn to our next panelist, and it's a young person, and Mr. Robert Ochala, who's a DJ, and runs a street radio program, and is the program director at the Youth Governors program in Kenya. Robert.
Yep, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and it's a privilege and a pleasure being here today. Ambassador Kimani and all panelists, all protocol observed. And I'm happy to be here to represent the interest of the youth. And apart from my introductory engagements, I ran a PCVE campaign dubbed From the Graves to the Grounds, a program that we started to mentor the youth in the right direction after cases of violent extremism emerged and alarmingly increased in our neighborhoods. And my presentation here will be a little bit more practical, and also because we like to keep it real with the young people and also from the communities we come from. And as a result of the increasing numbers of radicalized persons in our communities, we engaged with youths at different levels and at different stages of radicalization, from the vulnerable, and where we engage with them through organizing community forums, and also just trying to build the awareness and the disattractiveness of the radical extremist messages. We also engage with the radicalized, where we try to engage with them via linking them with prominent personalities, including conscious religious leaders, business people, and basically strong role models who can mentor them and lead them in the best way possible. We also have engaged with violent extremists. An example is a young 16-year-old who was arrested and jailed for 2 years, and then he won his case on an appeal. But when he came out, we knew that he was definitely going to be taken back by the extremists. And in that case, we took him in, mentored him, and we took him back to the grounds, whereby we now currently is playing football for a big Kenya Premier League team. And currently we also engage with the returnees, because there are so many who are coming back from Somali. And we engage with them because they recognize our presence in the community, and they identify with what we've been doing in regards to prevention. And in that way, we engage very much and closely with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, because they have a hand, and they are the four in the fight in disengagement, rehabilitation, and reintegration. From our many engagements, together with other actors, we have faced many challenges and roadblocks, but with support and cooperation from the government and key stakeholders, we can successfully strengthen resilience to violent extremism amongst the youth. In our many and diverse youth engagements, including the latest dubbed interreligious dialogue with the theme Strengthening Community Resilience Integration through Brains, Boots, and Beauty, aka BB Best, in partnership with the Global Center, these are some of the key pointers that the youth feel can be addressed to enhance resilience to violent extremism. Talking about what Ilan said practically going forward. First and foremost, the local administration should create better rapport with the youth. Cases of harassment, disruption of community or neighborhood norms, corruption, and so on can be tackled by enhancing dialogue to bridge the gap between the youth and the local government. The local administration can play a big role in this, as they are a buffer between good and bad perception of the government. We should be able, together with the government, address issues of hopelessness by engaging and involving the youth in opportunities. The youth need to have a fair share of the national cake. Invest in the youth, fund and sponsor them to enable their participation in social and economic activity, especially arts, sports, and entertainment. I think Ilhad will confirm with me that this is where the youths are best engaged in, arts, sports, entertainment, because they can spend more of their energies and creativity there. We should counter extremist narrative through extensive use of social media messaging. The biggest playground for the youth is social media, which is currently so much unregulated. The youth are more active on social media than on ground because of the many opportunities that present themselves online, and also the lack of dwindling opportunities in other sectors. Cyberspace carries with it not just the positive, but equally many negatives. For example, recruitment to violent extremism, bullying, and so forth, which have become higher online than offline. Online is more private, discreet, and radicalization can be built and nurtured at a desirable pace for the recruiters. Let's all remember that the threat of cyber caliphate is prominent and it's now very real. We need our curriculum to equip our students from a tender age with online ethics and responsible use of the internet. This will not only help them with responsible online behavior, but also how they can receive, interpret, and internalize information. Last but not least, our African governments should consider the following when they're engaging with the youth on an economic level. Number one, equity and equality should be the norm in provision of opportunities. Marginalization of any community or group should not exist. We've seen this in so many countries. Marginalization is one prominent excuse by the recruiters to radicalize many young people. Opportunities should be in line with strengths and abilities of the youth. You should not feed an elephant to a cat. So opportunities should be in line with the strengths and abilities of the youth, and they should be given opportunities also to grow. Remuneration should be contracted and on time. I think we've had so many complaints, and we have an example in Kenya whereby there's a big program which ended up causing more harm than good for the young people. The young youth should be given time to enjoy the fruits of their labor, and also they should not end up in the pockets of law enforcement officers. When they are arbitrarily arrested, I think Ilwad talked more about government actions and inactions in regards to engagements with the young people. The youth should be capacity built to be responsible, and then they should be given space to grow through opportunities in all spheres of life, be it formal education, sports, entertainment, positive religious engagements, and so on and so forth. And I think now in our country, we're starting to have positive engagements and a positive feel between the youth and the government. And last year, when our President Uhuru Kenyatta won an international award on a youth engagement, I think it resonated on the ground very well, and at least more young people in Kenya felt now connected with the executive. And I think through the National Counter-Terrorism Center, currently under Ambassador Kimani, they have a softer approach, especially when it comes to returnees, and I think which will bear fruit and ultimately build resilience and help promote peaceful coexistence in the communities. And as I conclude, I'll conclude one statement. Do not use and abuse. The youth must be engaged, involved, and saved, but not be blamed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Robert. I must say these are real-time examples, which is very important for stakeholders to really listen to. And at this moment, I'm going to turn now to a major stakeholder in this conversation, and who is the Executive Director of the Global Center on Cooperative Security, Mr. Elko Kessel. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Christian, and good morning, everybody. Chairs, Ambassador Kimani, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to the government of the Republic of Kenya and the United Nations Office of Counter-Terrorism for hosting this important regional conference. It's truly an honor to be part of this conference and of this panel. The Global Center on Cooperative Security has been working on preventing and countering violent extremism, or PCVE, efforts since our founding 15 years ago. As a not-for-profit organization with a global network of partners, we advance inclusive responses to complex security challenges across Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. This includes PCV-specific initiatives, but also work in related areas of criminal justice and rule of law, financial integrity and inclusion, and multilateral security policy. As Ilwat mentioned in her opening remarks, it is very encouraging to note that youth are not being discussed merely as a liability, vulnerable to radicalization and recruitment to violent extremism, but as critical and active partners, bolstering community resilience and advancing PCV objectives. However, more progress can and must be made. Based on our own experience, as well as our experience partnering with youth leaders, human rights and gender advocates across the African continent, some of which are in the room today and many who are not, I wish to highlight 3 key areas where governments and international organizations like the United Nations can better engage with youth as leaders in preventing and countering violent extremism. Firstly, we need to address all forms of insecurity and inequality experienced by youth. There are very diverse perspectives on insecurity in Africa. Some communities have suffered under extensive terrorist violence with devastating loss of life. In others, resource and land conflicts, inter- and intra-communal violence, gender-based violence, criminality, and gang violence are often more pressing security concerns than terrorism. When communities feel unprotected from these forms of violence, it exacerbates grievances of marginalization and can lead to violent reactions, such as, for instance, the creation of self-defense groups that might be vulnerable to radicalization or corruption into alliances with terrorist organizations. This may contribute to protracted local conflict and displacement with escalating consequences for African youth. We need to consider all aspects of human security when determining where and how PCV programming makes sense and is appropriate. PCV investments need to align with the actual threat of radicalization to violent extremism that is experienced by youth in each country and each locality, rather than focus on perceptions of the vulnerability of youth as a whole. However, security from violence is only one aspect of human security priorities for youth. Quite commonly, joblessness and economic marginalization are more pressing concerns. Youth highlight a sense of economic precariousness derived from low engagement in or access to formal employment opportunities. Success in entrepreneurship is increasingly seen as the most viable way for African youth to improve their condition. Recognizing this, the Global Center partners with several youth organizations in northeastern Nigeria that are working to support economic mobility of youth, and especially women and girls, by providing financial literacy training and business development mentorships. It is critical that opportunities for socioeconomic mobility are shared equally across all segments of society. Otherwise, it may have the opposite effect of exacerbating unmet expectations. And furthermore, PCV investment should not come at the expense of addressing other forms of violence, instability, or socioeconomic and governance challenges. In fact, PCVE may, in many cases, not be the most appropriate or productive lens through which to address some of the conditions that may yield youth vulnerable to violent extremism. Secondly, we need to build on and leverage the existing experiences of youth. Young people are key agents in driving peace and stability within their communities across Africa. We need to recognize, build upon, and leverage their vast knowledge and experiences in this regard. Facilitating exchanges of youth leaders within and across the region is key to maximize networking and sustain locally owned solutions to insecurity, including violent extremism. Youth exchanges should be focused and targeted, moving beyond broad discussions to facilitate advanced dialogue and learning on specific areas within the PCVE field. For instance, the Global Center facilitates peer expert exchanges between Kenyan and Nigerian youth organizations, focused on topics such as trauma and reconciliation, trust building, alternatives to violence, strategic communications, and community resilience. Exchanges have also focused on the type of change that youth leaders would like to achieve in their communities, supporting them, for instance, in providing effective awareness-raising initiatives, multi-stakeholder and trust-building dialogues, and skills training for other community members. In general, youth leaders have also described the lack of opportunities for professional development in relation to leadership and organizational management. These skills are critical to sustained and impactful programming and vibrant civil societies. To address this, we provide training on core organizational competencies like grant writing, project design, monitoring and evaluation, and budgeting and accounting to contribute to sustained effectiveness of youth-led programming. Governments and other donors should be flexible and less risk-averse in letting youth organizations test new concepts and new ideas. Private sector companies, philanthropic entities, and other international partners may be able to play a greater role in this regard as well. For example, organizations like the Global Center and the Global Community Engagement and Resilience Fund provide small grants to youth leaders for innovative pilot programming in East and West Africa, including several friends and colleagues on the panel, as you've heard earlier, as well as various colleagues in the room today. And lastly and thirdly, we need to create sustained and meaningful partnerships with youth. To achieve their full potential in sustaining peace and security, youth will need support from a number of partners. Local and national government authorities can create platforms for dialogue, facilitate policy change to meet youth needs, and foster the future generation of political and social leaders. For instance, young people and civil society organizations should play an important role in the development, rollout, and evaluation of national PCVE strategies and resulting programs. Yet, as commonly noted among various countries, a significant trust deficit exists between governments, civil society, and communities, especially among youth populations who feel they've experienced injustice at the hand of the state. This is a significant barrier that requires conflict-sensitive and do-no-harm approaches and responses at the community and institutional governance levels. Building strong partnerships also requires recognizing that youth are not a homogeneous entity with a singular common experience. Young women and young men face very different realities that come with unique fears and concerns, as do those from different ethnic and religious backgrounds, as well as those living in urban versus rural environments. We need a more inclusive and a more diverse set of perspectives to protect against bias in the understanding of violent extremism that hinders the effectiveness of our PCVE efforts. Engaging youth in PCVE policy must go beyond giving them a seat at the table. Engagement needs to involve meaningful exchanges that influences the strategic decision and objectives of policy, which in turn must translate into actions by government and non-governmental actors. In conclusion, youth represent one of the most critical actors in the fight against violent extremism, and more broadly in the establishment of peaceful, vibrant, and resilient communities. They are the most targeted and most commonly identified as vulnerable, but are also among the most vital partners in addressing radicalization to violent extremism. I appreciate the opportunity to share the perspectives of the Global Center and our dynamic youth partners with this esteemed audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kessler, for this, I think, real-time experience and for supporting young people. And I'm happy that you could testify that the lead that you give to young people has been able to do a lot. And it's very, very important. And now I'm going to turn to our next panelist, Mr. Cisse Guru, who is the Chief of Africa Branch, Office of the United Nations High Commission for Human Rights. Thank you very much.
Thank you, actually, another Cisse on the podium. Let me just at the outset saying that I very much concur and agree with all that has been said. Now, let me switch into French. Bonjour tout le monde. Il m'a été demandé de partager quelques réflexions sur comment les jeunes et leurs communautés peuvent-ils collaborer avec les gouvernements et les organisations régionales pour renforcer la résilience. Je voudrais d'abord remercier l'opportunité qui m'est offerte de m'adresser à cette conférence de haut niveau, mais aussi sur le sujet qui a été, ou bien l'accent qui a été mis sur le rôle des jeunes dans ce panel. Avant de rentrer dans le vif du sujet, je souhaiterais, avec votre permission, peut-être rappeler 2-3 points que nous avons entendus depuis hier et ce matin. D'abord, depuis hier et ce matin, nous avons entendu que les actes de terrorisme détruisent les vies, et détruisent les liens familiaux et détruisent le tissu social. Nous avons aussi entendu que les actes de terrorisme ont de graves répercussions sur la jouissance des droits civils, culturels, économiques, politiques et sociaux à travers le monde. nous avons tous aussi entendu que la mauvaise gouvernance, la corruption et l'absence de l'état de droit contribuent ou bien constituent ou créent les conditions propices au terrorisme et à l'extrémisme violent. En conséquence, à mon avis, prévenir et résoudre les conflits et promouvoir l'état de droit et le progrès social et économique sont la première ligne de défense contre le terrorisme et l'extrémisme violent. L'Afrique en particulier est confrontée à une vulnérabilité unique vis-à-vis de cet extrémisme violent, de par son niveau de développement et l'absence de l'effectivité de l'État sur l'ensemble d'une partie du territoire. Dans certaines communautés, il faut le reconnaître, les groupes extrémistes sont les seuls à pouvoir fournir les services de base. Et le soutien aux groupes terroristes et extrémistes n'est pas nécessairement le résultat d'une conviction ou d'une idéologie ou d'une adhésion à une idéologie, mais plutôt une nécessité quand vous vous retrouvez dans une situation où vous avez besoin d'avoir accès à l'eau, d'avoir accès aux soins de santé, etc. Ce qui fait que les jeunes sont des proies faciles pour de telles forces. Fort heureusement, et c'est la bonne nouvelle, une étude récente a prouvé que la majorité des jeunes dans le monde ont en fait rejeté l'extrémisme violent. Mesdames et messieurs, la prévention de l'extrémisme violent et la lutte contre le terrorisme exigent, et on est tous d'accord, une approche globale qui engage un certain nombre d'acteurs, y compris les États, la société civile et les jeunes. Et comme le secrétaire général l'a déjà souligné, et je cite, « Les jeunes doivent être perçus de plus en plus, non pas comme une menace, mais comme un grand potentiel pour le monde, en particulier dans la recherche de la paix, de la justice et du respect des droits de l'homme. » Fin de citation. Oui, les jeunes, en tant qu'agents de la paix, peuvent collaborer avec les gouvernements et les organisations régionales pour renforcer la résilience des communautés. Et ceci peut prendre plusieurs formes. Et je vais simplement, comme j'ai que 6 minutes, peut-être mettre en exergue 3. Premièrement, il peut s'agir des campagnes de sensibilisation contre l'extrémisme violent à travers les réseaux sociaux. Comme vous le savez, Facebook et Twitter sont des plateformes populaires et surtout dans les zones urbaines. Deuxièmement, il peut s'agir aussi de la création de centres communautaires animés par les jeunes et les chefs traditionnels, mais les chefs religieux aussi, où ils peuvent discuter entre eux et décider de la mise en œuvre d'initiatives qui favorisent la lutte contre l'extrémisme violent. Et ceci est très important dans le contexte africain, car, comme vous le savez, dans plusieurs de nos communautés, la médiation, la réconciliation et la recherche du consensus font partie de notre tradition. Et les décisions prises par consensus ont beaucoup plus de chances d'être mises en œuvre. Ces genres de plateformes créent donc l'espoir chez les jeunes, en particulier les jeunes issus des milieux défavorisés ou marginalisés, car ça leur donne l'impression d'être écoutés et que leur voix compte. Troisièmement, il peut aussi s'agir de la création d'espaces de dialogue par les jeunes et pour les jeunes pour engager un dialogue constructif sur les problèmes auxquels ils sont confrontés et qui peuvent en réalité mener à l'extrémisme violent. Naturellement, la question, au-delà de l'information sensibilisation, la question de l'éducation et de la formation jouera un rôle important dans ces 3 aspects. Bref, je voudrais ici dire que l'investissement dans les jeunes doit être un élément majeur de toute stratégie de prévention et de lutte contre le terrorisme et l'extrémisme violent. Tous les programmes visant à prévenir l'extrémisme violent et à lutter contre le terrorisme devraient mettre l'accent sur l'éducation et le renforcement des capacités de la jeunesse. Aussi, pour éviter des recrutements de masse par les groupes terroristes, à mon avis, il faut 1. De travailler à l'amélioration et à la jouissance des droits économiques, des droits sociaux et culturels par et pour tous, sans distinction aucune de race, de sexe ou de niveau social. Il est aussi essentiel, deuxièmement, de travailler à créer la confiance entre les autorités et les communautés affectées, communautés auxquelles appartiennent les jeunes, hommes et femmes. Troisièmement, les initiatives et autres activités entreprises par les États pour prévenir l'extrémisme violent ne doivent ni discriminer certaines communautés, ni aboutir à la stigmatisation d'un groupe ou d'une région. Tout doit être mis en œuvre pour que ces actions soient aussi inclusives et sensibles à l'approche genre. Mesdames et messieurs, comme j'ai que 6 minutes, bien qu'il n'existe pas de modèle unique, la prévention et la lutte contre l'extrémisme violent devraient contribuer à la construction de systèmes et de structures qui exigent et facilitent la participation de la communauté, la participation de tout le monde. Permettez-moi donc de terminer en partageant la conviction du secrétaire général selon laquelle, et je cite, « La création de sociétés équitables, inclusives et pluralistes, fondées sur le plein respect des droits de l'homme et sur les possibilités économiques pour tous, représente l'alternative la plus tangible et la plus significative à l'extrémisme violent. » Fin de citation. Ceci pour dire que les besoins et les droits des jeunes doivent être satisfaits et garantis. En réalisant cela, les jeunes constitueront un allié sûr et précieux pour la prévention de l'extrémisme violent et la lutte contre l'extrémisme. Avec ces mots, je m'arrête ici et vous remercie de votre aimable attention.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Cissé, pour votre intervention. At this moment, I'm going to turn to our last panelist, Mr. Masoud Karimipo. I hope I pronounced it so well.
You pronounced it extremely well. It's as if
Thank you very much.
For years. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
First, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank Office of Counter-Terrorism and the Government of Kenya for organizing this very important and extremely timely conference, but particularly for including and highlighting this particular opportunity for us to engage the youth and address their vulnerabilities as well. Given the extremely limited amount of time that we have, please allow me the luxury of summarizing in a very extreme fashion my message. Empower the youth, empower the youth, empower the youth to prevent terrorism. Indeed, I think that all that we have said so far on this panel has indeed led us to the same conclusion. Let's look at the numbers. In Africa, the youth are a rapidly growing part of the population, and they have to be treated as an enormously valued asset and not a threat. Indeed, some 830 million youth are expected by 2050 in Africa. 3/4 of Africa's population of over 1.3 billion are under the age of 35, and nearly half are under the age of 15. There, among that population, are the future leaders, policymakers, thought leaders, even presidents, perhaps in this room, perhaps on this panel. Christian, Ilwad, you may be our next president. So we look forward to your contributions continuing until then. But seriously, we have enormous opportunity among the youth. And to empower the youth by including them in decision-making processes and also coming up with very practical and concrete ways of including the young in the development of programs and initiatives at preventing violent extremism conducive to terrorism. I think it's really very possible, and we have seen many successful examples of that already among some of the member states present in this room. And if we strengthen our partnerships and adopted some of the lessons learned from one another, I think we have a clear path to empowering the youth in Africa. So, the UN Office on Drugs and Crimes, in which I am the Chief of Terrorism Prevention, has a mandate from the UN General Assembly and the Security Council to provide assistance to member states in their efforts to address legal and criminal justice aspects of countering terrorism, including preventing violent extremism, and including the special vulnerabilities and opportunities among the youth. And UNODC has dedicated particular attention to technical assistance to member states on the treatment of children, and we have already developed a whole set of toolkits that we put at the disposal of member states' policymakers and institutional leaders and professionals on recruiting, on preventing violent extremism among the youth and addressing the issue of recruitment and exploitation by terrorists of young people. And, but given the limited amount of time, let me highlight just a few. One is advances in communication technology that have increased youth empowerment and engagement on an unprecedented level and have facilitated the emergence of a global community, including a global community of easily influenced population and audience of young people. So with that vulnerability, through cyberspace and social media, we are seeing extremists exploiting that and seeking to disseminate their ideology and recruit vulnerable individuals. Now, to counter that threat, the use of internet for terrorist purposes, the member states need to strengthen their capacity to detect, to investigate, and prosecute terrorism-related activities that make use of the internet and social media, and for us to cooperate across borders, as well as with private actors, particularly service providers on the internet. And we are helping member states to do just that through projects involving currently 10 African states, and I encourage more African states to join this initiative to address this vulnerability. Now, to reclaim this space, security and criminal justice measures offer only a partial answer. Here are some other lessons learned. We must integrate young women and men into decision-making processes, foster trust between decision makers and young men and women, involve hard-to-reach young men and women, ensure that when we allocate resources at the national level, we address violent extremism vulnerabilities among young people and work directly with them and hear their needs. Prevention, prevention, prevention. And this is my other key message, because the young people are particularly targeted by recruiters, because they are seen as being more easily influenced and less expensive to recruit, and also because young people are searching for significance, for empowerment. And if we, in their own countries, we at the community level educate, empower, and employ the young, then you inoculate the young against messages of recruiters. And in this respect, I'd like to highlight the work being done by an NGO, Think Peace Mali, a think tank led by Mr. Fomba, who is contributing to this very conference, to address the pro-social factors that should be considered in preventing recruitment of young people by terrorist groups. Next, children and youth should be included in public life, and their platform for their voices to be heard. We need to offer them a safe space to do that. We've also at UNODC have been offering technical assistance on rehabilitation and reintegration of children formerly associated with terrorist and extremist groups. We have offered member states reintegration strategies that require a delicate balance between individual support and community-based interventions. And as we discussed in this very meeting just yesterday at a side event that we organized, we have developed very concrete tools that we are putting in the hands of member states, including a handbook on children recruited and exploited by terrorists, and the role of the justice system. One of my co-panelists mentioned preventing abuse of the young in the hands of government. In fact, treating young people with dignity and due process is a safe and sure way of achieving that goal. So in conclusion, let me highlight what the Secretary General Guterres already put so well. Let us strengthen partnership. Let us address enablers and drivers of violent extremism, including poor governance issues, including inequality, and including lack of opportunity for the youth. Build resilience, and again, to close where I started, if you wish to prevent terrorism, empower the youth. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Karimapo, for this. I think a lot has been said, but there's one thing which I thought of very important to highlight, which is, recognizing young people within this process. Because as a young person who saw violence on hand and, being part of this process, and for 11 years working, striving in communities to promote peace, the few recognitions which I had as a person and that the organization had actually, worked a lot on building the resilience of more young people, because we want to feel we are heroes. After being named the Commonwealth Young Person of the Year, it meant a lot to young people that you could come from a difficult past and still drive change. And after winning the Luxembourg Peace Prize as well, it meant a lot to these young people. And continuously, much more young people are seeing the need to drive peace. And I think it's something which we must keep hold of. And working with prisoners after 2 years and recognizing as the father of prisoners also meant a lot. That even the young people that we think we are trying to save have the capacity to recognize what we do for them, and I think it's one thing we must keep on doing while we provide this support. I would now I'll now move to my colleague Ilwat, who's going to chair the next session. And Ilwat, it's all yours now. Thank you very much.
I think before we move on to the next session, we should thank the panelists that we had for that robust discussion. Please join us. I was very encouraged by the remarks made by every single person on this panel, and as we had discussed in our opening remarks, our next steps will be to hear from you. If you have official remarks that you've prepared, if you want to share your reflections from some of the statements that have been shared from this very distinguished panel, we welcome that. I'd also like to invite you all who have not yet registered to include your name on the list so that we can hear your reflections. We'll start with a few remarks now. We'll take a coffee break, and then we'll return for the list of registered speakers. With that said, I would like to start with the League of Arab States, His Excellency Ambassador Abdul Manaim Mahmoud Mabrouk, Head of Mission of the League of Arab States. Please. It's not here? Okay, we'll move on to the second speaker, and if the League of the Arab States returns, then we'll take it then. So our next speaker will be from Burundi, Ms. Epiphany. Please, the floor is yours.
Je voudrais d'abord remercier les co-présidents et les féliciter pour vraiment la diligence hors du commun. Ma délégation voudrait soutenir d'abord les propos de tous les orateurs qui disent que la jeunesse est un pilier pour les États et essentiellement pour l'Afrique. Les États sont interpellés pour valoriser cette jeunesse qui, heureusement, est vraiment importante en Afrique. La population africaine est très jeune. Et comme je le disais hier, mon pays veut vraiment investir dans les jeunes. Et nous avons constaté que malheureusement, une partie de la jeunesse peut nous échapper. Et c'est pour cela que nous aimerions que le gouvernement du Burundi aimerait mettre tout le paquet pour que la jeunesse soit mobilisée au travail. Et qu'un fonds pour créer une banque qui va subventionner les projets des jeunes va bientôt être créé et que le fonds a été déjà approuvé par les instances nationales compétentes parce que bon, en Afrique de l'Est, notre année fiscale commence en juillet. Donc, tout est mis en œuvre pour que les jeunes puissent être mobilisés autour des projets générateurs de revenus. Et comme nous l'avons aussi écouté, c'est vraiment réconfortant de trouver que des jeunes comme le président et le coprésident sont mobilisés pour essayer de ramener leurs frères et sœurs, je ne dirais pas dans le bercail, mais dans le bon chemin. Et c'est un partage d'expérience que nous allons aussi répercuter au niveau de mon pays. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. I just want to remind our next speakers that everyone is encouraged to keep their remarks under 3 minutes, please. At the 2.5-minute mark, you'll start to see your microphone flashing. We encourage you to share practical remarks, as we just heard from Burundi as well. I'd now like to invite the Netherlands, Ambassador Koster, to please share remarks with us.
Thank you very much, Chair, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by commending the UN and the government of Kenya and all who have contributed to the organization of this important event. By being here today, we recognize that terrorism is a global threat and that no state can address this alone. International cooperation is essential to protect our citizens and strengthen global security. And to protect our citizens, a balanced approach is necessary. We should focus on counter-terrorism measures, but also on prevention. Not discussing the roots will not help us find solutions in the long run. The prevention of violent extremism is one of the cornerstones of the Dutch approach, in line and support of the preventive approach to counter-terrorism as set out in the UN Global Counter-Terrorism Strategy and the UNSG Plan of Action on PVE. Successful prevention, of course, requires a tailor-made approach that must take into account the very different context in which people around the world may radicalize and turn to violence. And we all know that root causes of violent extremism differ per region, but the result is the same in many regions: conflict, instability, and terrorism. Because of this variety of causes, we need a variety of measures and make smart connections between, for instance, development assistance and efforts to prevent extremism. At home in the Netherlands, we address the issue of radicalization and violence through local interventions, which means we invest in capacity building in local government actors. It means working with local actors, teachers, youth groups, etc. And it means not always taking a security approach, but to a potential problematic individual, sometimes getting social workers or mental health professionals involved is the better option. In the end, building resilience to radicalization and violent extremism is one of our most important assets, and the only way to be successful in this approach is by involving local community actors and youth in designing this approach. Prevention also requires innovative approaches, and it requires the ability to connect to the minds of the people we address with this approach, in particular young people. That is why we are currently working on a new pilot that uses rap music as a means to distribute resilience messages. It is a very popular way for youth to express themselves, and it can be used as a tool to recruit people for a violent extremist group Why not use it the other way around, we would say. We also invest in building youth networks, safe spaces where young people can discuss difficult topics such as radicalization, terrorism, insecurity, and other problems they face. And also the solutions that they themselves envisage to tackle these challenges. It is inspiring to take part in these discussions, for example, here in Kenya, and see how young people express their views through music, movies, and in dialogue with community leaders and government officials from NCTC. In closing, prevention is not an easy topic. It requires money, effort, and most of all, patience. And let's be honest, that is patience many of us or our government find hard to endure. How do we muster the patience to invest 2 or 3 years from now instead of just focusing on today's problem? There are no quick wins in this field, and the Netherlands intends to stay the course. And at the end, how to demonstrate that we have prevented people from joining a terrorist group, all questions each country of international organization faces. We are facing this threat together and must continue to cooperate and mutually strengthen our efforts, which is pivotal for long-term success. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I'd now like to welcome Ambassador to Nairobi for Saudi Arabia, Mr. Hamza Al-Gashmari. Please, the floor is yours.
أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، السيدات والسادة الحضور الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بادئ ذي بدء أود أن أنقل لكم تهنئة حكومة خادم الحرمين الشريفين الملك سلمان بن عبد العزيز آل سعود يحفظه الله لجمهورية كينيا والأمم المتحدة على إقامة هذا المؤتمر في هذا التوقيت الهام، كما تقدم شكرها العميق للعاملين والقائمين عليه، مما لا شك فيه أن الإرهاب لا دين له ولا وطن ولا جنسية، وهو يستهدف العالم أجمع ولا يفرق بين دين أو عرق أو دولة. تجاوز الأديان والأعراف والحدود وقتل الأبرياء في كل مكان، وعانى منه الصغير والكبير والغني والفقير. إن مكافحة الإرهاب والتطرف وتعزيز قيم الاعتدال مسؤولية دولية تتطلب التعاون والتنسيق الفعال بين كل الدول، وقد عملت المملكة وبشكل وثيق ومنسق مع المجتمع الدولي والدول الصديقة لمحاربة الإرهاب وتتبع الإرهابيين ومنظماته وتجفيف منابع تمويله. أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، السيدات والسادة الحضور، لقد عانت المملكة من الإرهاب، فكانت من أوائل الدول التي وقعت بها عمليات إرهابية، إلا أن حكومة بلادي نجحت وبشكل كبير في التصدي له على كافة الأصعدة الإيديولوجية والفكرية والتعليمية، وتمت مجابهته بالعلم والحكمة وتصحيح المفاهيم الخاطئة وترسيخ الاعتدال والتسامح والقيم التي نصت عليها الأديان السماوية جمعاء. كما قامت المملكة بالعديد من الجهود في مكافحة الإرهاب، حيث استضافت أول مؤتمر دولي لمواجهة الإرهاب عام 2005، كما دعمت تأسيس المركز الدولي لمكافحة الإرهاب بالأمم المتحدة، وهي من أوائل الدول التي أسست التحالف الدولي لمحاربة داعش. وقادت المملكة عدة مبادرات في مجال مكافحة الإرهاب، منها التحالف الإسلامي لمكافحة الإرهاب، وتأسيس المركز العالمي لمكافحة الفكر المتطرف اعتدال، الذي افتتح بحضور قادة من الدول العربية والإسلامية ورئيس الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية. كذلك أسست المملكة مركز الأمير محمد بن نايف للمناصحة. وامتداداً لجهود المملكة في تعزيز دورها الرائد، كونها في مقدمة الدول المحاربة للإرهاب لكافة صوره وأشكاله، وتأكيداً لدعم مكافحة الإرهاب والتطرف، فإن حكومة المملكة العربية السعودية قررت دعم المؤتمر من خلال مشاركة جمهورية كينيا والأمم المتحدة في رعايته، وتقديم مساهمة مالية بقيمة $200,000 أمريكي. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. شكراً.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your remarks. I'd now like to welcome the United Arab Emirates, to make their remarks. Ambassador Khalid Khalifa.
أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، السيدات والسادة الحضور الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بداية أود أن أتقدم بالشكر إلى جمهورية كينيا ومكتب الأمم المتحدة لمكافحة الإرهاب على عقد هذا المؤتمر الهام، كما وأود أن أعرب عن تقدير دولة الإمارات للدعوة التي وجهت إليها من أجل المشاركة في هذا المؤتمر، حيث لبت بلادي هذه الدعوة انطلاقاً من حرصها المتواصل على دعم القارة الأفريقية في كافة القضايا الإقليمية والدولية، خاصة في مجال مكافحة التطرف والإرهاب. وعليه وقبل أن أتطرق إلى موضوع هذه الجلسة، اسمحوا لي أن أشارككم عدداً من الأمثلة المقتضبة التي تعكس جهود دولة الإمارات في التعاون مع شركائنا الإقليميين والدوليين للتصدي لتهديدات الإرهاب الخطيرة التي تواجه القارة الأفريقية. ففي عام 2017 كانت بلادي في مقدمة الدول التي دعمت القوة المشتركة لدول الساحل الخمس بتقديمها مساهمة بلغت 30 مليون يورو، حيث تعد هذه الدول من ضمن أكثر المناطق التي تستهدفها الجماعات المتطرفة والإرهابية. كما مولت دولة الإمارات إنشاء كلية الشيخ محمد بن زايد للدفاع في نواكشوط، والتي تتولى مهمة تكوين وتأطير قوات دول الساحل في مجال مكافحة الإرهاب. علاوة على ذلك، وفي إطار تعاوننا مع الأمم المتحدة، قدمت بلادي في عام 2017 مساهمة مالية لمركز الأمم المتحدة لمكافحة الإرهاب لدعم عدد من المشاريع، منها برنامج يهدف إلى تطوير قدرة دول الساحل في مجال الاتصالات الاستراتيجية التي تهدف إلى منع التطرف والتصدي لتجنيد الأفراد. كما شملت المساهمة دعم برنامج إدارة أمن الحدود التابع للمركز الذي يهدف لبناء قدرات دول منطقة الساحل والقرن الأفريقي في منع تدفق المقاتلين الإرهابيين الأجانب. سيد الرئيس، لقد اخترنا أن نتحدث في هذه الجلسة التي تركز على تمكين الشباب في التصدي للتطرف المفضي إلى الإرهاب، نظراً للأهمية الكبيرة التي توليها بلادي لهذه المسألة، حيث تؤمن دولة الإمارات أن الشباب هم خير وسيلة للتصدي للتحديات القائمة والناشئة. إن شبابنا هم المستقبل، وهم الفئة الأكثر عدداً في مجتمعاتنا والأفضل إبداعاً وابتكاراً. فأفريقيا تمتلك أكثر سكان العالم شباباً، بينما يضم العالم اليوم أكبر عدد من الشباب في التاريخ. وعليه فمن الضروري الاستثمار في قدراتهم وطاقاتهم اللامحدودة لمواجهة التحديات الملحة، خاصة التطرف والإرهاب، وبناء مجتمعات آمنة ومستقرة على المدى البعيد. إن هذه الأسباب هي نفسها التي دفعت بالجماعات المتطرفة والإرهابية إلى استقطاب وتجنيد فئة الشباب أكثر من غيرهم من الفئات الأخرى، حتى استهدافهم وقتلهم. لذلك يتعين علينا كحكومات ومؤسسات وأفراد أن نكون أكثر استباقاً في تمكين الشباب واحتضانهم ومعالجة مظالمهم لما فيه خير لمجتمعاتنا. وبينما ندرك أن استراتيجيتنا الوطنية والإقليمية لمنع التطرف والإرهاب يجب أن تأخذ بعين الاعتبار السياقات الخاصة بكل دول ومنطقة، إلا أننا نؤمن بضرورة تبادل أفضل الممارسات والخبرات المعمول بها من منطقة لأخرى لتعزيز استجابتها لهذه التحديات. وفي هذا السياق اسمحوا لي أن أشارك معكم عدداً من التدابير التي اتخذتها دولة الإمارات لتمكين الشباب وجعلهم محوراً أساسياً في استراتيجيتنا لمنع التطرف ومكافحة الإرهاب. أولاً، إعطاء الشباب أدواراً قيادية في القطاعات الحكومية والخاصة وعلوم المستقبل. فبالإضافة إلى تعيين بلادي وزيرة دولة لشؤون الشباب وتأسيس المؤسسة الاتحادية للشباب، عملت بلادي على الاستثمار في الكادر الوطني الشبابي في مجالات هامة مثل التكنولوجيا وعلوم الفضاء. كما توفر دولة الإمارات منح دراسية للشباب، وعملت على تخصيص عدد من الصناديق المالية والجوائز التي توفر الدعم والمساندة لرواد الأعمال من الشباب. ثانياً، توفير منابر ومنصات للشباب للتعبير عن آرائهم وطموحاتهم وأفكارهم، ومثال على ذلك إطلاق الحلقات الشبابية وتأسيس مجالس الشباب الذي يعمل كجهة استشارية لحكومة دولة الإمارات في قضايا الشباب، حيث انبثق عن هذه المبادرة تشكيل مجالس محلية ومجالس وزارية ومجالس عالمية توفر جميعها فرصة للشباب للتحاور وأخذ دور فاعل في توفير حلول عملية وأفكار مبتكرة وسياسات فعالة للقضايا الهامة. ثالثاً، نشر الوعي بين شبابنا وتطوير قدراتهم ومهاراتهم في التفكير النقدي وتحليل المعلومات المنتشرة على وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي والمنصات الإعلامية، ويمكن ذلك عبر تحديث المناهج التعليمية وجعلها مواكبة لتحديات العصر، مع تركيزها على تعزيز قيم التسامح وتقبل الآخر، بالإضافة إلى إنشاء مؤسسات مختصة بنشر الوعي وفضح أكاذيب الجماعات الإرهابية مثل مركز صواب في أبو ظبي. رابعاً، إجراء المزيد من البحوث ومواصلة تنفيذ أساليب مبتكرة وجديدة لتمكين الشباب وتفعيل دورهم في التصدي للتحديات القائمة والناشئة، حيث قامت بلادي بدراسة لتقييم الوضع الاجتماعي والسياسي والاقتصادي للشباب الإماراتي بهدف تلبية احتياجاتهم. أما على المستوى الإقليمي فلم تدخر دولة الإمارات جهداً لتمكين الشباب في المنطقة العربية التي تضم 60% من سكانها تحت سن 30، ومثال ذلك تأسيس مركز الشباب العربي الذي ينفذ مبادرات تتيح للشباب العربي المساهمة في تنفيذ أهداف التنمية المستدامة. أما فرص الشباب العربي فهي منصة إقليمية أسستها بلادي لتوفير بعثات دراسية وبرامج تطويرية وتدريبية للشباب العربي، كما أطلقنا مبادرة مليون مبرمج عربي، والتي تعتبر أكبر مشروع يستشرف المستقبل ويمهد لتطوير الاقتصاد الرقمي في المنطقة العربية بقيادة شبابية. إننا نفتخر اليوم أن تكون دولة الإمارات وفقاً لنتيجة استطلاع الرأي لرأي الشباب العربي الوجهة الأولى المفضلة لدى الشباب العربي للعيش والعمل، فهذا كل ما يطمح له شبابنا اليوم، بيئة تحتضنهم باختلافاتهم العرقية والدينية وتتيح لهم تحقيق طموحاتهم وأحلامهم وبناء مستقبل أفضل لهم. وفي الختام يسرنا أن نعلن استضافة دولة الإمارات وبالتعاون مع مكتب الأمم المتحدة لمكافحة الإرهاب مؤتمر إقليمي سيركز على تمكين الشباب وتعزيز التسامح في منطقة الشرق الأوسط يومي 18 و19 ديسمبر 2019، ونتطلع إلى تحقيق النتائج الهامة التي سيحققها المؤتمر والمؤتمرات الإقليمية الأخرى التي يعقدها المكتب، والتي ستساهم في إثراء فهمنا لكافة الجوانب المحيطة بمسألة منع التطرف ومكافحة الإرهاب. وألف شكر.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for the detailed statement you just made. And I do encourage the next speakers to please keep the remarks 3 minutes or less. We've now decided that we're going to continue with all the speakers lined up now before the coffee break. And then we will finish and close our session and invite you to join us for coffee and refreshments after. So please, I'd now like to welcome from Bangladesh, Mr. Counselor. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. Once again, let me take this opportunity to thank Government of Kenya and UNOCT for organizing this wonderful conference. My delegation believes that it is critical for young people to take the center stage in all city and CV dialogue and act as active agents of change. We would like to share some broad reflections and perspectives on that. First, institutionalizing mechanisms to involve youth in the promotion of a culture of peace, tolerance, intercultural, and interreligious dialogue. We need to recognize that no one is born as an extremist or terrorist. Terrorists and extremists are created. We must therefore identify the patterns through which young people get radicalized through evidence-based data and analysis and take appropriate measures to reverse those. In doing so, we should remember that brute force can't curb violent extremism for time being, but it can't be a long-term solution. Second, developing an understanding of respect for human dignity, pluralism, and diversity through formal and informal education means. In Bangladesh, our education policy had been recalibrated to include a syncretistic overtone in the national educational curricula at the primary and secondary level. Third, empowering youth through the promotion of media and information literacy, and by including youth in decision-making processes. Also, engaging youth role models in discouraging acts of terrorism, violence, and xenophobia through mainstreaming in social media. Keeping this in mind, in our SDGs implementation plans, we have been engaging deeply with students and young leaders. Fourth, developing practical ways at global, national, and community levels to include youth in the development and relevant programs and initiatives aimed at preventing violent extremism. Fifth, creating spaces in conformity with the international and domestic laws to protect young people affected or exploited by terrorism or violent extremism, and to create spaces to return them to normal life and reintegrate with society. In Bangladesh, we actively encourage a whole of government and whole of society approach to build defense against terrorist and violent extremist elements. Our community policing initiatives have been particularly effective in this respect. Our women empowerment and youth development programs have had a far-reaching impact on preventing the spread of violent extremism. We have developed a robust global and regional partnership. My delegation takes this opportunity to particularly thank UNOCT for recently conducting a couple of projects in Bangladesh, including one aimed at preventing violent extremism among the youth. We also appreciate the insights that UNOCT helped us gather on possible risks and solutions in the aftermath of the influx of 1 million Rohingya population into the territory from Myanmar. Finally, it is through our quality, inclusive, and transformative education that our youth can turn into truly global citizens and help shape global discourse on CT and CVE and put those on irreversible track through responsible and effective engagements with their peer groups and beyond. Indeed, good education and deep engagement with the youth is the key to prevention. It can redress inequality that fuels violent extremism. It helps learners make informed decisions and engage responsibly. I thank you all.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to invite from Coast Interfaith CC, Reverend Dr. Stephen Ayenda. The floor is yours.
Night's working. Good morning, everyone. Is it afternoon? From the Coast Interfaith Council of Clerics, we work with interfaith approaches to many things, and particularly in the area of the youth. This brings all the faiths, that's the Muslims, the Christians, the Hindu faiths, and also the indigenous faiths or the African tradition faiths that live in the coast region of Kenya. The coastal region of Kenya has faced a lot of issues, particularly when it comes to issues to do with violent extremism and terrorism. And so we find that most of our youth are involved. And what do we provide as faith-based groups? In our churches and mosques and in our shrines and temples, we provide one safe space. The youth want a safe space, a place they can talk, a place they can discuss their issues, and we've agreed in the coast region, and now we are moving to other parts of the country to provide space, a place the youth can have. Many times you find space where the youth have to go to and pay, but if they want a hall to meet in, a place to discuss their issues, we do provide that place. Secondly, we provide mentorship to our youth. We do discover many of our youth grow in areas whereby there are absentee parents. Either there's an absentee father, an absentee mother, or both of them are absent. We do provide mentors for the youth. Some of the youth just want a person to speak to. We identify those youth, those people, and we ask the youth to speak to those people that they choose to speak to over a variety of issues. Also, we train the youth on messaging. There are many youth who are using the social media and space, and some of them need training on how to use computers, on how to use telephones, on how to use, because some of these gadgets are not available to majority of our youth. And so we provide space and we provide a place whereby some of the leadership of the youth can find a place to be trained and how to message and contact each other. We also provide ourselves as a place whereby qualified youth can go and identify employers. There are many people who have a place to, the youth want employment, but they don't know where to go to. We identify some of the employers and we ask the youth, we recommend the youth to the employers so that they can get employers for that. And lastly, we also speak on behalf of the youth. Many of the youth also can get into kind of issues with the law enforcement agencies. We stand and go in and speak on behalf of the youth so that they can be pardoned or they can find space to be listened to by the law enforcement people. Together, we bring the youth in both in the intra and interfaith dialogues, and we have found the youth have something to say. And now we find that the youth are preachers, the youth are teachers, and the youth are starting to invest in the area of faith. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to invite Costa Rica. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Madam Chair. Gracias, señora presidenta. La delegación de Costa Rica desea agradecerle a la Oficina de Naciones Unidas en Nairobi y al gobierno de Kenia por acoger esta conferencia y debatir sobre un tema que a todos nos preocupa. Señora presidenta, la mejor forma de atacar el terrorismo es mediante la prevención. Los estados debemos fortalecer las instituciones que combaten el crimen y el terrorismo. Debemos trabajar fuertemente en la reducción de la impunidad y respetar el Estado de Derecho y los derechos humanos. También se deben redoblar los esfuerzos para extender los servicios básicos como la educación, la salud y la seguridad a las zonas en donde la presencia gubernamental es débil o escasa. Esto con el fin de evitar la radicalización de los jóvenes y cerrar espacios al terrorismo, la violencia extrema y la criminalidad. Estamos frente a un fenómeno en el que los criminales le prestan servicios a los terroristas como lavado de dinero, facilitación de documentos, tráfico de armas y tráfico de personas. En este sentido, consideramos que la cooperación es fundamental para poder combatir a estos grupos organizados que operan internacionalmente, aparte de la asistencia que puedan brindarse los países mediante acuerdos bilaterales. Costa Rica considera que el rol principal en la cooperación lo tienen las organizaciones regionales y subregionales para coordinar esfuerzos conjuntos. Las necesidades nacionales y los patrones de criminalidad cambian por regiones. La situación en África es diferente de la situación en otras regiones. Es por eso que debemos cooperar y intercambiar experiencias y buenas prácticas entre todos. Dentro de la cooperación, tanto entre Estados como entre las Naciones Unidas y los órganos regionales, debe incluirse la capacitación y transferencia tecnológica. Las herramientas informáticas usadas principalmente para el rastreo de combatientes extranjeros deben estar al alcance de todos los países y ese debe ser un esfuerzo conjunto. La estandarización de contenidos en las bases de datos que facilite el intercambio de información debe ser un objetivo común para mejorar la lucha contra el terrorismo. El terrorismo constituye más que nunca una seria amenaza tanto para los estados en sí mismos como para la comunidad internacional como un todo. Hoy día los grupos terroristas promueven el reclutamiento de jóvenes mediante campañas mediáticas con una narrativa, el cual necesita de reclutas dispuestos a defenderlo. Si queremos impedir que jóvenes vulnerables que profesan opiniones moderadas se conviertan en extremistas militantes y que los extremistas militantes se conviertan en terroristas, es necesario abordar la narrativa ideológica utilizada para atraerlos a sus filas. En este sentido, mi delegación reconoce la importancia de la resolución del Consejo de Seguridad 1624 del 2005, que procura, entre otras cosas, impedir que instituciones educativas, culturales y religiosas fomenten un adoctrinamiento extremista. Sin embargo, en esta época en que la mayor parte de la estrategia de reclutamiento se da a través de las redes sociales, podría ser oportuno analizar la posibilidad de que los medios de difusión consideren la adopción de códigos voluntarios de conducta para los periodistas que informan sobre el terrorismo. Otra posibilidad es que se promueva dar espacio en los medios de comunicación a las víctimas del terrorismo y a sus familias. De esta manera, lograremos empoderar a las víctimas y a darles una voz. Esa voz debería de ser transmitida en el mismo lenguaje cultural y a través de los propios canales que usan los jóvenes, al igual que hacen los terroristas. Sin afectar la libertad de expresión ni el derecho de acceso a la información, podría ser pertinente analizar si el establecimiento de lineamientos como los que acabo de mencionar pueden ser útiles para contrarrestar la narrativa terrorista. Muchas gracias, señora presidenta.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I'd now like to invite from the International Institute for Justice and the Rule of Law, Mr. Reinhardt. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ilbert. Thank you, Christian, for extremely interesting panel. Thank you all the panelists. Thank you all to Kenya and to the United Nations to invite us to participate and contribute to this important conference on behalf of the International Institute for Justice and the Rule of Law, which is one of the initiatives inspired by the Global Counter-Terrorism Forum. The IJ plays a key role in supporting, implementing, and operationalizing GCTF best practices and other international good practices to counter terrorism and violent extremism. We are headquartered in Malta, so in the middle of the Mediterranean, which serves as a bridge between Europe and our core geographic area, which is in Africa and in the Middle East. Since we were established in 2014, we worked with over 4,500 criminal justice practitioners and experts, with a majority of them coming from Africa, and I'm very glad to see many partners in this room here. As a capacity building training hub in the counterterrorism field, we work to build national criminal justice capacity, carefully considering, of course, the work that is done by our colleagues from the United Nations. We are doing so through 8 core initiatives that all have different work streams, and I will give a couple of examples. The IIJ Homegrown Terrorism Initiative is implementing and operationalizing a GCTF Good Practices Memorandum in that regard, and is really taking and looking into practical steps that governments and criminal practitioners can take to effectively tackle the challenges posed by homegrown terrorism and we have worked successfully with many countries in the region, seeing exciting results, including with youth organizations. Under our juvenile justice initiative, we have played a leading role in developing and raising awareness for international good practices to ensure justice for children in the counter-terrorism context. And then, of course, in our core initiative, the Judicial Capacity Building Initiative, we are building capacities of prosecutors and judges to prosecute and adjudicate terrorism cases and ensure that the defendants' rights are protected. Across all of our initiatives, we are identifying practitioners who are enthusiastic, committed to reform in the counterterrorism context, and who have or who are building sufficient influence within their domestic agencies. With that, I would like to conclude. I would like to thank you again. I'm here should there be questions later on or ideas for further cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to welcome URI Horn of Africa Regional Coordinator, Mr. Mahmoud Sougay.
Bonjour. Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente, de me donner la parole et mes remerciements vont également aux organisateurs de cette conférence, le Kenya et l'ONU. Mesdames et Messieurs les participants, je vous salue avec la salutation fraternelle de l'islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. À vous les jeunes, je vous salue avec la salutation fraternelle de Thomas Sankara, de Nelson Mandela, de Steve Biko, Harbi, Nkrumah, Patrice Lumumba. Si je passe à mes remarques, je crois que la jeunesse ne doit pas être considérée comme un problème à gérer, mais plutôt comme la solution de nos problèmes que nous faisons face. Et pour contrer le menace de l'extrémisme violent et la radicalisation, il faut que la jeunesse s'outille d'elle-même. Parce que quand on s'outille de soi-même, on arrive à faire beaucoup de choses. Il faut aussi que les organisations internationales, régionales, intergouvernementales et les institutions gouvernementales participent effectivement à organiser la jeunesse, à leur donner la place qu'il faut. Ce qui veut dire, on a parlé tout à l'heure, l'espace d'expression, de réflexion et d'échange, ce qui permet à la jeunesse de dialoguer, de trouver des solutions à leurs problèmes. Les initiatives que nous, par exemple, URI, nous prenons, nous utilisons les sports comme un moyen de promotion de la paix. Nous avons organisé à Djibouti ce qu'on avait appelé « Pédalons pour la paix », avec un tour en vélo dans la ville de Djibouti, pour montrer comment il est difficile de faire la réconciliation quand la guerre a éclaté. Parce qu'il est plus facile de faire la guerre que de faire la paix. Nous avons aussi initié le dialogue intergénérationnel pour pouvoir amener deux générations à discuter, à dialoguer, pour que les transferts de l'expérience et les savoir-faire se fassent entre les générations. Nous avons aussi initié l'initiative d'AIR, qui est un espace de réflexion et d'échange qui permet de ramener autour de la table différents acteurs de la société civile politique djiboutienne. Nous avons aussi initié l'IGAD Youth Forum pour donner la parole et augmenter la voix de la jeunesse à l'intérieur de l'institution intergouvernementale qu'est l'IGAD. Je vous en remercie.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to invite from the Institute of Security Studies, Dr. Roba Sharamo.
Thank you, co-chairs. I want to really also echo and support the assertions and statements by the previous speakers of really an excellent panelist that we have had this morning. And from the Institute of Security Studies, we are honored and also as well want to congratulate the government of Kenya and UNOCT for really organizing this very timely conference. just a few quick things that I would like to really say. The Institute for Security Studies is one of the largest African think tanks with offices in Senegal, Pretoria, Addis, Nairobi, and we are looking at also opening up more offices in the Northern Africa so that we have more continental coverage. In terms of the place of the young people, I think the support that they need to be given, I think it's very clear from the different analyses that young people are both the victims, sometimes the perpetrators of this violence, and at the same time the agents of change. So I think it's really, really important for us to be looking at how do we support the young people who operate in a very hostile environment. You will see that terrorism or instability, where there's instability or conflicts, or where governments' structures are not very strong is where terrorism do thrive. But at the same time, you will also realize the young people tend to be the people will be used by different recruiters in some of these. So I think some of the things which I imagine, which we need to be looking at, is that we need to be deepening social values and inculcate the social values of patriotism within the young people at different levels, from elementary school levels to even tertiary institutions. I think a lot of recruitments that we have seen of very elitist kind of terrorists, people are really learned. You can find biochemical engineers and mechanical engineers in some of the people who are recruited in some of these networks. It's not that the usual bulk of what you consider maybe unemployed youth, but sometimes there are also these elitist ones. And we need to be looking at coming up with strategies that cater for different categories of youth that needs to be supported. It's also important, I think, that in the different interventions, that we also look at youths who are on borderland communities or in rural areas, who are not normally reached by, let's say, institutions which are based in capital cities, looking at how do we support youths who are on the periphery, and those who didn't actually even maybe go to school, but who have really taken up arms, because also flow of the small arms in the continent tends to be very pervasive. We need to be also looking at investing in communities, vulnerable families, a lot of families who are headed by single mothers, looking at families who have lost family members. I think looking at really investing in vulnerable families, and also looking at how do we involve youth more in research. Research, sometimes organizations do research without really involving youth. I think we need to develop critical frameworks that youth are also involved in terms of really doing research and also dissemination of the same. Elements around rehabilitation and reintegration is quite critical. I think a number of youths, I think I worked in Kenya before, in my previous life, youths who have gone, let's say, to Somalia, to Al-Shabaab, they just want some meaningful employment, which they don't find when they have crossed on the other side, and they get very frustrated. So I think we need to be looking at how do we provide meaningful employment, particularly to also university graduates and others, because it's not just people who have not learned to actually be recruited, but some are quite specialized. I think the innovative programs like internships, which are run by governments. I know the government of Kenya has initiated some internship program for universities graduates. It's important to really catch some of these and give them important interventions. I think it's also important to really deal with the issues of migration. Migration tends to be another cover under which some of these recruitments do take place. It's an area that needs to be looked at more critically, and as well looking at the issues of providing support to youth-led organizations in terms of grants. That grants are tailored to support institutions led by youth so that the resources are directed clearly to where they should be. So those are a few remarks I wanted to make, and I want to say this is an interesting regional conference, and I'm sure a lot of good things will come out of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to invite Morocco, Mr. Mohamed Belkir, to please take the floor.
Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Je vais participer avec une intervention concernant la concrétisation de tout ce qui a été discuté concernant l'immunisation des jeunes, la capacitation et la résilience de ce groupe. Et ce travail a été fait au Maroc par la Rabita Mohammed Ulama, qui est une instance religieuse, avec l'appui de l'Undp et la collaboration du ministère de l'Éducation nationale. Donc ce projet, il vise à promouvoir les valeurs de la citoyenneté, de la tolérance et de la lutte contre les violences de tout genre de violences. Les violences sont les violences basées sur le genre, ainsi que l'extrémisme. Parce qu'à l'Arabita Mahmidi des Ulama, nous disposons d'un concept général qui est le comportement à risque, et on entend par le comportement à risque toute valeur négative déviée, y compris le terrorisme. Donc ce programme, il vise les élèves lycéens et collégiens. Donc les élèves du lycée et du collège, nous disposons de plus de 7 millions d'élèves dans tous les établissements scolaires, que ce soit les collèges, les lycées et les établissements de l'enseignement primaire. Mais on a visé tout simplement les collèges et les lycées qui constituent un socle de 3000 établissements. Et le programme, il est étalé sur 4 années. Donc nous visons à former les enseignants de la vie scolaire. Donc il y a l'éducation formelle qui se fait dans les cours à travers la journée, et en parallèle il y a ce qu'on appelle la vie scolaire. Donc ce projet, il vise à immuniser les élèves de tout comportement à risque, y compris l'extrémisme. Il vise aussi à outiller les enseignants d'un certain nombre d'outils, d'un certain nombre de supports et d'un certain nombre de méthodologies et approches éducatives, ainsi qu'un contenu adéquat pour prévenir contre l'extrémisme violent. Tout en sachant qu'au Maroc, dans les lycées et les collèges, il y a l'éducation islamique. Donc nous sommes un pays musulman, donc nous ne sommes pas comme les autres pays arabes, il y a d'autres confessions avec d'autres religions qui se font en même temps dans la classe. Donc les élèves, à travers ce cours unique de l'éducation islamique, ils ne connaissent que l'islam. Et certains enseignants, parfois, lorsqu'on parle de l'islam, donc on comprend par l'islam un sens spécifique. L'islam, c'est l'islam, la religion de Sidna Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Par contre, lorsqu'on parle de l'islam, islam en arabe, islam c'est la soumission à Dieu. Donc toute religion monothéiste, c'est un islam. À partir de ça, donc, comme vous connaissez, Sa Majesté le Roi, que Dieu l'assiste, a ouvert ce dialogue interreligieux et interculturel pour élaborer un certain nombre d'attestations et un certain nombre de conventions. Donc, on a visé par ce projet 3 choses. Donc, les contenus, les supports et les mécanismes avec lesquels nous travaillons avec les élèves. Donc, on a choisi pour chaque année un certain nombre d'enseignants qui sont sélectionnés par le ministère de l'Éducation nationale et constituent un socle de coordonnateurs avec les autres enseignants dans les lycées et dans les collèges. Et nous avons formé ces enseignants dans un certain nombre de matières pédagogiques et des contenus. Donc parmi les matières qu'on a formées, dans lesquelles on a formé ces gens-là, donc il y a un ensemble de méthodologies et un ensemble d'approches, et surtout l'approche de la déconstruction du discours radical. Je ne dis pas la destruction, mais la déconstruction pour produire des messages alternatifs. Et on a appris à ces gens-là comment ils vont véhiculer cette approche de revoir surtout les textes coraniques, les versets et les hadiths pour les mettre dans leur place juste. On a aussi un socle pédagogique relatif aussi à certaines pédagogies et la pédagogie de différenciation, la pédagogie comparée dans un certain nombre de pédagogies, et on a aussi avisé un support de formation, un support de guide. Donc certains guides pour que les enseignants par la suite aient ce socle pour former d'autres enseignants, la formation en cascade, puisqu'un seul coordonnateur dans un lycée, dans un collège ne suffit pas. Donc il est demandé à ce professeur, à cet enseignant de former d'autres dans le lycée et le collège, et ces formateurs vont former par la suite un deuxième intervenant, un deuxième type d'intervenant, qui sont les éducateurs pairs, qui seront choisis parmi les élèves pour véhiculer les valeurs de citoyenneté, les valeurs de prévention contre l'extrémisme violent, les valeurs de vivre ensemble. Et pour cela, on a, concernant la méthodologie pour que les élèves s'intègrent dans cette approche, donc il y a le jeu de rôle, il y a les simulations, il y a l'autoscopie pour que l'élève lui-même se réfléchisse lui-même pour voir quel est son profil. Il y a le monitoring et le suivi. Concernant le volet cognitif, parce qu'on a dans cette formation un volet pédagogique, un volet méthodologique, et on a un autre projet qui est cognitif, qui constitue le socle de formation de savoir. Donc c'est la citoyenneté, c'est l'éducation de la tolérance, c'est la tolérance et l'esprit de convivialité, c'est les droits humains, c'est la prévention des risques, des comportements à risque. Donc, et on a passé par 4 phases. La première phase, c'est la formation des enseignants coordonnateurs. Deuxième phase, c'est la formation d'autres enseignants par les formations coordonnateurs qui ont bénéficié de la première formation par les formateurs de l'Arabitat, Mohamed Yedi Ulema, et les formateurs de l'éducation nationale. La troisième phase, c'est la formation par ces enseignants des éducateurs pairs, et par la suite, c'est les éducateurs pairs, la période de la sensibilisation et l'éducation des élèves contre l'extrémisme violent par les élèves mêmes, donc jeunes pour jeunes. Et la nouveauté de ce projet, c'est que dans la vie scolaire, les élèves vont utiliser les smartphones, ils vont utiliser les outils numériques, ils vont utiliser plusieurs supports numériques qui existent dans la vie scolaire et qui sont utilisés pour développer des comportements à risque. Donc, et on a formé ces gens-là comment produire une vidéo games, les jeux de vidéo, comment former un dessin animé, structurer un dessin animé, comment faire une capsule, et les élèves, ils vont identifier, les éducateurs pairs vont identifier les problèmes existants dans le lycée, et c'est à eux d'essayer de revoir et de faire la prévention contre ces comportements à risque. Donc on n'a pas donné une recette déjà préparée, mais on a préparé les élèves, on a formé les élèves, les éducateurs pairs, comment ils peuvent identifier ces problématiques, ces situations à risque dans leur lycée propre, dans leur collège, et comment faire face à ces comportements. Et on a vu par la suite que chaque lycée, que chaque collège a ces comportements à risque différents d'autres lycées ou d'autres collèges. Et par la suite, on a formé les élèves dans le théâtre forum. Donc, ils choisissent, ils identifient les comportements à risque, ils montrent un sketch et ils discutent. Et les élèves eux-mêmes deviennent des acteurs pour pour trouver des solutions contre les comportements à risque. Le comportement qui est identifié par les élèves eux-mêmes. Et donc, c'est contrairement au théâtre classique qui donne la situation finale et qui donne le résultat final et la solution finale. Il n'y a pas de solution. La même situation problème et plusieurs résolutions selon chaque lycée, chaque collège, chaque vision. La première année, on a formé 400 enseignants. Cette deuxième année, on va former, cette année, à partir de décembre, on va former d'autres enseignants, 200, et ils vont arriver vers la quatrième année, vers les 3000 enseignants. Chaque enseignant, pour chaque lycée, chaque collège, un enseignant qui va former d'autres enseignants, qui vont former les éducateurs pairs par la suite. Merci.
Thank you very much. We have 2 speakers left on the list before we conclude the session. If anyone else would like to share a statement or some reflections from the statements that have already been shared, please add your name to the list now or forever hold your peace. In the meantime, we will hear from Zimbabwe. Please, the floor is yours.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, Madam Co-Chair, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. We also want to start by commending the government of Kenya and the United Nations Office on Counter-Terrorism for organizing this event. Just a reflection from some of what has emerged from the third session of this conference. We support a point raised by Mr. Kessels that success of PCV efforts will require, among others, economic mobility of youths as well as youth exchanges within regions. In view of such thinking and going forward, we think there is need as a collective for us to rethink as a global community the effects that imposing economic sanctions or restrictive measures within a region could potentially have towards creating small havens of youths who get left behind in collaborative global initiatives to end violent extremism. This is not to suggest that sanctions against a country should be completely outlawed, but just to say that consideration ought to be given to what exactly we stand to benefit or lose from such actions. Just and plural societies, in our view, require more integration of communities than policies that are isolationist and directed against ostracizing certain countries in this global initiative. Cooperation across borders that Mr. Masood Karimpo also highlighted becomes difficult in our view, where certain countries within regions are not part of global initiatives, such as this conference seeks to generate, in order to end conflict, violence, and terrorism. Sanctions, in our view, impair resilience efforts by affected states, and hence our call that we move towards more integration than policies that are more isolationist. We are facing this threat together, and let's support each other through and through. Terrorism, as has been said, kills indiscriminately throughout the world and efforts and affects our common interests of peace and security. As Your Excellencies will agree, acts of violent extremism may start as localized actions directed against a particular government, but which could potentially conflagrate and affect whole regions. Sanctions that run for extended periods end up becoming drivers of instability within regions or countries. And if anything, in our view, they are an indictment on all of us for culpability in lacking determination and sincerity to deal with the drivers of violent extremism holistically. As will be recalled by several delegates here, Zimbabwe has in the past intercepted various groups that sought to use its territory to cause violence on other states, which clearly demonstrates our commitment towards ending or collaborating towards ending violence and extremism across borders. And on that note, we thank you and call upon all of us to reflect on the imposition of sanctions that could end up affecting war regions whilst they are initially intended to affect individual countries, which is not possible under globalization. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the remarks. And we are going to now have the UNDP representative in Nairobi. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me congratulate and thank the speakers for excellent interventions and also the co-chairs of the panel. And just leading on from what Ms. Ilman indicated earlier around the work, the empirical research done by my organization, Undp, and I'll refer to that in my intervention, but thank you for referring to the wealth of knowledge and evidence that underpins guiding programmatic approaches to addressing violent extremism. We know that the threat of violent extremism on the African continent does not seem to be halted by military victories. Countries at the epicenter of the transnational threat of violent extremism in Africa have spent on average 12% of their national budgets on the military. Yet we still witness attacks, and recent examples are quite well known and referred to over the past 2 days. So with the support of the Institute of Economics and Peace and in a forthcoming report, UNDP has been able to conclude that the economic impact of these terrorist attacks in 18 hard-hit African countries has increased by over 1,700% in the 10-year period between 2007 and 2016.
I can't find a network connection.
From an estimated $753 million in 2007 to about $14 billion in 2016. In reality, the figure is much more once estimates for GDP losses, lost informal economic activity, extra security spending, refugee and IDP costs are included in this calculation. The high costs of terrorism on the continent, we know, drains away budgets that can be invested in the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, which can address the root causes of marginalization. Here we see a cyclical movement that comes into play. Marginalization feeds into violent extremism, and consequently the effects of terrorism feed into increased marginalization. So a sustainable solution would be impossible if we do not break this cycle. Losses of development caused by terrorism have to be addressed through a developmental response. And many speakers today have really spoken to that. And this notion firmly underpins UNDP's theory of change in its programming to prevent violent extremism. The study that was referred to earlier, which was conducted in 2017, the report on the journey to extremism in Africa, sought to provide more clarity and nuance to the discussion on which specific development challenges should be addressed in PVE responses. So we looked for the answer in what we think are the most reliable target audience. We interviewed 573 individuals, mostly youth, that have formerly been associated with a violent extremist group operating in Africa. We asked both voluntary and forced recruits, who are largely young people, about their life histories, their personal perspectives on cultural, socioeconomic, political, and religious issues, and the trigger factors in their radicalization processes, or those events that made them to decide to actually join a violent extremist group. Our findings spoke to our hypothesis that developmental challenges feeding into radicalization, into violent extremism, require developmental answers. For example, the accident of geography, or being born in a peripheral region or borderland in Africa, was visible in responses from a majority of ex-recruits. Also, 39% of the voluntary recruits enjoyed only about 5 to 10 years of secular education. Among the same group, we also found a lack of exposure to people of other religions and ethnicities. The most striking finding, however, that some of you who have read the report might recall, speaks directly to the development challenge addressed in SDG 16, on peace, justice, and strong institutions. 71% of ex-recruits, who were predominantly youth, point to government action as the tipping point in their radicalization processes. The killing of a family member or arrest of a friend is revealed as a prominent accelerator of recruitment. So this leaves us all with an enormous challenge in the governance domain. What can we do to prevent individuals in their processes of radicalization into violent extremism from experiencing injustice? How can we critically evaluate our security measures to undertake preventive measures? One good practice that we support as UNDP is to support integrated whole-of-society approaches to formulate national PVE policies that include governments, religious leaders, civil society organizations, youth-focused organizations, women's networks, academics, and security agencies, to mention but a few. And this was referred to by the distinguished delegate from Bangladesh. We have supported, amongst others, IGAD, Kenya, Tanzania, Sudan, Uganda, and Nigeria in this whole-of-society approach. In this, we harvest the first fruits of UNDP's development approach to PVE. And we have learned some valuable lessons around our whole-of-society approach, which is that this requires a real long-term and sustained investment, as was also mentioned by the distinguished delegate from the Netherlands. And thank you.
Thank you very much. And we shall now move to the Democratic Republic of Congo. Thank you.
Merci pour la parole. Mesdames et messieurs, à vos titres et qualités respectifs, la délégation de la République démocratique du Congo tient à remercier le Bureau des Nations Unies en charge de la lutte et de la prévention contre le terrorisme, ainsi que la République du Kenya pour l'organisation de cette rencontre au cours de laquelle la RDC présente son expérience. À cet effet, notre présentation sera axée sur 3 points, à savoir une brève présentation de la situation du terrorisme en République démocratique du Congo, et deuxième point, enseignement tiré de la lutte contre le terrorisme en RD Congo, et le troisième point, perspective d'avenir. Le point 1, présentation de la situation du terrorisme en RD Congo. Depuis les années 2005, la RD Congo est engagée dans la lutte contre les groupes armés qui sévissent principalement à l'est du pays et s'illustrent dans les méfaits divers tels que les massacres des populations, les enlèvements, les viols et pillages. Une situation devenue alarmante dans la mesure où ces groupes recourent de plus en plus à des engins explosifs et se lancent dans l'exploitation illicite des matières précieuses et autres trafics transfrontaliers. Parmi ces groupes sont particulièrement violents tels que le Lord Resistance Army, LRA, et le Allied Democratic Forces, les ADF, dont les leaders sont d'origine des pays voisins, des pays limitrophes. Les forces de défense et de la sécurité de la République démocratique du Congo sont engagées à les combattre sur le terrain, avec l'accompagnement des partenaires bilatéraux et multilatéraux, dont la mission des Nations Unies en République démocratique du Congo, MONUSCO, et la CERGL et la CADC. Actuellement, le groupe qui attire le plus d'attention est l'ADF, du fait de ses méthodes, des origines et de ses combattants, surtout les jeunes, et de son infédération à la mouvance islamique qu'on appelle ISIS, dont l'État islamique a revendiqué en date du 18 avril 2019 l'attaque survenue à Kamango dans le territoire de Beni. Ce groupe est particulièrement actif dans les territoires de Beni, frontaliers de l'Ouganda. Deuxième point, enseignement tiré de la lutte contre le terrorisme en RDC. Après capture et identification des combattants ADF, il ressort que le réseau de recrutement et de financement de ce groupe s'étend à tout le pays de la République démocratique du Congo. Et c'est souvent les jeunes qui sont recrutés sous divers prétextes, soi-disant recherche d'emploi, promesses de bourse. Les actions militaires ne suffisent pas pour faire face à la menace posée par l'existence de ces groupes, d'où la nécessité d'une action coordonnée entre les autorités militaires et judiciaires. La nécessité de la mise à contribution des autorités administratives coutumières et religieuses pour la sensibilisation de la population dans le cadre de la prévention de tout mouvement lié à l'extrémisme violent. la collaboration renforcée avec la brigade d'intervention des Nations Unies est aussi en vigueur. Perspective d'avenir. Une approche globale et inclusive qui intègre tous les secteurs de la vie nationale dans la lutte contre le terrorisme à travers le Comité national de coordination. Le dit comité fonctionne sous la supervision du chef de l'État et son conseiller en matière de sécurité en assure la permanence. On compte aussi associer tous les pays de provenance, dont les jeunes combattants, surtout les jeunes combattants d'ADF, à travailler en synergie pour maîtriser les réseaux de recrutement et de financement. Donc on va barrer au fait la route à tous ces gens. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup pour votre intervention. Et on va appeler Mali pour son intervention. Merci. If the speaker from Mali is not,
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le co-président. C'est le micro qui ne s'allumait pas. Voilà. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le co-président, Mesdames et Messieurs. Au nom du gouvernement de la République du Mali, je voudrais remercier le gouvernement de la République du Kenya et l'ONU pour l'organisation de cette importante rencontre qui traite d'un sujet très important pour le monde entier. Monsieur le Président, cela dit, je voudrais également remercier nos brillants panélistes qui nous ont donné des contributions très appréciables du point de vue de la délégation malienne. Donc nous voudrions les remercier pour cela. Monsieur le Président, depuis le début de notre session, beaucoup de choses ont été dites. Nous n'allons pas les répéter. Nous voudrons vous rassurer que nous partageons dans l'ensemble tous ces éléments. Monsieur le Président, je voudrais informer cette auguste assemblée, comme vous le savez tous aussi déjà, que mon pays reste confronté au phénomène du terrorisme et de l'extrémisme violent depuis un certain nombre d'années. La panéliste Mme Cissé déjà a brossé la situation sécuritaire au niveau de notre région. Je ne vais pas revenir là-dessus. Je voudrais toutefois indiquer qu'en réponse à ces facteurs, à ces phénomènes tragiques pour mon pays et puis d'autres pays, le gouvernement du Mali a adopté une stratégie nationale de prévention et de lutte contre l'extrémisme violent et le terrorisme. Cette stratégie est basée sur 5 piliers. Il s'agit d'abord de la prévention, la protection, la poursuite, la réponse et la cohésion sociale. Au niveau de la prévention, un accent particulier, même au niveau des autres piliers, un accent particulier est mis sur la question de la jeunesse. La jeunesse, comme beaucoup l'ont dit aussi ici, nous partageons cela, il ne faut pas la prendre seulement comme un défi. Nous pensons que c'est une grande opportunité pour notre pays et même pour le continent africain. Monsieur le co-président, nous avons une préoccupation particulière. Aujourd'hui, on parle de résilience de la jeunesse, mais la question du financement du terrorisme, nous n'avons pas senti que cela a été abordé, parce que tous ces jeunes désœuvrés qui sont recrutés aujourd'hui, c'est à partir des ressources que les terroristes ont. Nous pensons que pour aller vers cette résilience de la jeunesse, pour aller vers cette déradicalisation, il est important qu'on puisse tarir complètement les sources de financement du terrorisme. C'est un élément qui est capital et très important. Nous pensons qu'il est important qu'on puisse mettre l'accent sur cet aspect. L'autre aspect que je voudrais évoquer, Monsieur le Président, nous venons des pays qui ont des ressources très limitées. Et ces ressources-là aujourd'hui sont fortement éprouvées par les investissements que nous faisons dans le domaine de la sécurité et de la défense. Alors que, si vous voyez le débat général qu'on a eu ici aujourd'hui, l'investissement de la jeunesse, la capacitation de la jeunesse, tous ces aspects très importants ont été évoqués. Mais comment un pays qui investit plus de 22% de son budget aujourd'hui dans les investissements de la défense et de la sécurité peut répondre aussi à cette urgence? On l'a dit ici, nous pensons que la coopération internationale elle est très importante. Le partenariat qu'on peut développer avec différents pays est très important. Donc nous pensons que cela doit renforcer les efforts nationaux pour qu'on puisse atteindre les objectifs que nous nous sommes fixés. Monsieur le Président, notre collègue du Burkina, dans sa présentation, a parlé au niveau du Burkina de plus de 2000 écoles fermées. Je pense que ce n'est pas anodin. Ces groupes-là savent ce qu'ils font. Parce que c'est au niveau de l'école qu'on éduque, c'est au niveau de l'école qu'on forme les citoyens. Donc nous pensons qu'il faut qu'on trouve des mesures alternatives quand ces écoles sont fermées. Comment faire que ces enfants, ces jeunes ne puissent pas rester dans la rue? Nous pensons que c'est une équation importante à laquelle nous devrions trouver une solution. Par rapport à l'éducation, il y a un élément que nous n'avons pas senti ici aussi, le milieu familial. Parce que nous pensons que la première école d'abord, ce sont nos familles d'abord. Avant que l'enfant aille à l'école, il naît dans une famille. Comment on peut mettre l'accent aussi dans cette éducation au niveau familial? Nous pensons que dans la stratégie qu'il faudra mettre en place, cet élément doit ressortir. En dernier point, Monsieur le Président, la question de la culture de la paix. On en parle, mais il faut qu'on aille vers des stratégies concrètes. Développer la culture de la paix depuis la tendre jeunesse jusqu'à la jeunesse, jusqu'à l'adolescence. Voilà, nous pensons que cet élément est important et qu'on puisse tenir compte de cela. Enfin, Monsieur le Président, nous formulons le vœu ardent que cette conférence aboutira à des résultats concrets, à des actions urgentes et vigoureuses que nous pourrons envisager et que nous voudrons mettre en œuvre pour aller vers un monde débarrassé du terrorisme. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Co-président.
Merci beaucoup pour votre intervention. En ce moment, on va appeler Uganda. Uganda, you now have the floor. Thank you.
Co-chairs, allow me join the rest of the people who have expressed their appreciation, and Uganda also with my delegation want to send our appreciation to the government of Kenya and the people of Kenya together with the United Nations City Office, where they have made this a reality to come and discuss and talk about the challenges and the PCV conference. I'll begin with the historical perspective of the terror threats in Uganda and the attacks thereon. You recall in 1998 when there were simultaneous attacks in both Kenya and Tanzania, Uganda was also part of that team that was supposed to be attacked. But, however, the team that was supposed to do that, the organizers and people who were supposed to do that, they drowned in Lake Victoria. However, in 2010, Uganda also got attacked by the foreign-inspired terrorism perpetrators, where we lost a number of innocent souls and others went injured. On this note, I want to concur with the speaker who we video watched from United States, Michelle, when she gave the prevailing situation in our region, that is DRC and Mozambique. And on this note, I concur with the DRC delegation when they talk about these terror groups that are lingering in the region, especially the Allied Democratic Forces, ADF, which has now metamorphosed into what we call now MTM, that is causing a lot of mayhem in DRC and in other neighboring areas, of course, where they have not spared Uganda by carrying out simultaneous assassinations and attacks on different forms. The group has bases in DRC, in eastern part of DRC, as you have heard, and has continued infiltrating the country. However, Uganda government has managed the threat by training and having capacity building of counter-terrorism units, the de-radicalization programs, development of database of people suspected to have links with terrorism, electronic monitoring of movement of foreign fighters in the region to avoid infiltration. By these terror groups, Uganda has done that electronic monitoring system, and it has also legally acted on the identification of those cells, both which are local and international. Also, Uganda has managed this by legislation of the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2002 and as amended by 2015. It has also, as a country, sensitized made the sensitization of the community in schools and institutions of high learning, and the government is up and running in community policing and identification of early warning mechanisms. Also, we have intensified as a country on access control measures at social gatherings, vital installations, and soft targets. We have also come up with timely intelligence sharing with the neighboring countries about plans by terror groups for preemptive measures. And also, as a country, rehabilitation and reintegration programs have intensified in the country, where, despite the above, we still have challenges that would need the global community to be part of this, and we also see this vice behind us. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. And we will now call on the Center for Democracy and Development. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning. Is it morning? Yeah, morning or afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Just to say thanks to the panelists for presenting what they are doing in various countries to include youth in the civil program. At the Center for Democracy and Development, we've been working for years in the northeast Nigeria to countering violent extremism, working closely with key actors, including youth. And I would just like to talk a bit about what we're doing with regards to promoting social coherence among key actors. And just as a background, we work in Goza, and we all know the story of Goza, which was taken over by Boko Haram in 2014, and until 2016 that the government soldiers chased away the military. It means chased away the Boko Haram members. It means the people within the Goza community suffered a lot of abuses, and even a lot of people had to move out of that community to Maiduguri and other parts of the country. But the most important thing is that when these community members returned back to their communities after the government chased away the Boko Haram members, they also faced with a lot of challenges in terms of how to address social divide existing within that community at that point in time, in terms of sharing of properties and so on and so forth. And we all know that within that Goza local government, there are like 8 different languages with Muslims and Christians living. And there's always issues around not so good interreligious relations. So we found it quite interesting for us to, before we start talking about countering violent extremism, we need to address the issue of social divide among different warring groups within that community. So what we've been doing in Goza is actually to engage youth. A lot of people have talked about creating safe space for youth to dialogue and have robust interactions about the challenges that they are facing. We created that safe space among youth where they come on quarterly basis, they come around to talk about the challenges. And we also complemented that with the interfaith group dialogue, where people from different religious backgrounds come together to talk about the challenges, and the youth are actually playing an active role. I will tell you that last 3 weeks we were there, an interesting resolution was made by these people that one of the key ways they can address that is also to start campaigning for interreligious marriages among different groups. That's quite shocking to us, because we know that prior to this time, these people are never talked about using interreligious marriage as a way of building coherence among different community members. And we'll also be engaging them in footballing activities, sanitations, and one also key revolution was that the head of the Christian communities in that place said they will definitely start paying visits, which was never there before, to the Muslim communities, which would create an open impression that there is now coherence among different actors within that society, so that they will start speaking in one voice and taking collective actions in countering violent extremism in that society. The other way that we also be engaging another community called under the Madagali local government, which shares border with Goza community. Goza is in Borno State, while Madagali is in Adamawa State. Is a community, a district called Duhu District, where we've been building capacities of state actors, including youth, on case management system. At the onset of our interventions, one of the speakers talked about the importance of research. We conducted a research to have a broad understanding of what justice means within the context of people, perception of people in addressing violent extremism in that part of the country. And we come to term, through that research, we were able to identify existing traditional mechanisms in addressing the issue of injustice, social injustice within this community. And we've been engaging youth to be part of the process of utilization of traditional mechanisms in facilitating justice in that community, and as a way of building social coherence in the Duhu district. So some of the things that we have been doing, we've also learned a lot of lessons. One, sustainable interventions, engaging different actors, could actually lead to incremental participation of youth. When we started engaging this Duhu committee, like 6 months ago, we realized that the women and youth who were part of that committee were just one. And the last visit we made there, they've actually increased the membership of women and youth in that committee group to 4. And that was actually as a result of back and forth interactions that we had with them in terms of the need for representation of different vulnerable groups in that committee. So in general, is also for us to look at social coherence, promoting that as a way of countering violent extremism, as well as the application of existing traditional mechanisms to shape conversations around the need to counter terrorism in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the intervention. And we would like to remind ourselves that we are drawing close to the end of the session. And of course, let's try to respect the time frame which we set for this. We would now like to invite Nigeria to share their perspective. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, let me at the onset join other speakers in thanking the government of Kenya and the UN Office of Counter-Terrorism for organizing this important conference. Mr. Chair, statistics indicate that about 65% of Nigeria's population is below the age of 25. The vulnerability of youth to terrorist propaganda and the recruitment can be traced to a multitude of factors, including their perceptions of social or political marginalization, economic vulnerability, geographic proximity to terrorist group, and exposure to permissive social networks. This clearly means that interventions are urgently needed to help counter violent extremism and to create environments for all youths to become peaceful and productive adults. Therefore, there is need to encourage and provide the wherewithal for the youth to form advocacy groups and regularly connect them with local government authorities so that officials and young people may jointly take actions to improve communities. There is also need to facilitate connections to role models and support family dialogue on violent extremism. A key strategy to prevent youths from joining violent extremism movement is to reinforce positive social ties and connections to role models. Therefore, civil society can support families to talk to youths about resisting recruitment schemes, cultivate diverse youth groups, and connect all youths to elders, including religious and traditional leaders and other role models. Mr. Chair, Nigeria is helping the youths to achieve their ambitions, starting with increasing their access to financial and business services. Nigeria also signed the Not Too Young to Run bill, which reduced the age limit for running for elected office for the youths. To that end, Nigeria believes that active engagement of youths and communities in peace-building programs that facilitate interactions among individuals of disparate backgrounds, teach values of tolerance, and promote nonviolent conflict resolution have been effective in diminishing prejudice and mitigating the appeal of radical ideologies. In the same vein, solutions should include economic and social measures aimed at achieving growth and improving social conditions for young people who are the most vulnerable to the recruitment as foot soldiers of terrorism. In this regard, Nigeria is helping to promote inclusion by creating economic opportunities for youths by equipping them with skills needed to improve their social welfare. Nonetheless, there should be a strong regional cooperation to combat terrorism in Africa using global collective strength against the terrorist weaknesses. In leading the campaign against terrorism, African countries should forge new international cooperation and redefine the existing ones in terms suited to transnational challenges of the 21st century, as well as integrate the youths into mutually beneficial relationships that protect against the forces of disorder and violence. Ultimately, our collective efforts against terrorism should foster an African environment where young people live in dignity, free from fear and violence, in peaceful and prosperous societies. And I thank you all.
Thank you very, very much. We'll now call on Search for Common Ground for the intervention. Thank you.
Okay. Habari gani? Distinguished guests, good afternoon. Search for Common Ground recently conducted a research that sought to understand individuals at risk, and we got to deepen our understanding on influencers, networks, and the communication channels that are used by those individuals in Kenya and Tanzania. We are now engaging with the hard-to-reach individuals and using many approaches to get to the spaces where the hard-to-reach are engaging on a day-to-day basis. I want to talk about one particular program that we are running funded by the Department of State that is increasing knowledge on city legislation and increasing constructive engagement and dialogues between the communities and the criminal justice actors. And in this case, we are using the approach of the court user committees. What is standing out in the conversations that are coming from the communities is that justice is still very opaque and it is taking too long. And the communities are not very clear on the laws that have been set aside or set up to address violent extremism or to address terrorism. Also, the women are still very cautious at the presence of justice actors within the communities. The CUCs too, the court user committees too, are still very cautious at interacting with these communities at risk outside of the court process. They find it a risk and a challenge to go to those communities where the hard-to-reach communities are. On the other hand, the young people are very optimistic that engaging with the criminal justice actors in the community, in the local hangouts, in the private homes, and in the market spaces will begin to create an opportunity for constructive engagement and dialogues, and might begin to have the court users understand the predicament of the young people. However, in our program, we are learning that we need to now talk about structural challenges within the judiciary and within the criminal justice system that are still making access to justice difficult and making it even harder for the young people to engage. What we are realizing is that the criminal justice actors, through the court user committees, are talking about increased trauma. Many of them had not been prepared that the cases that they would be dealing with would result to creating an environment of trauma, both to the criminal justice actors and to the community. The second thing that is coming out is frustration. You realize because the criminal justice actors are working in different agencies, there's not much coordination, and therefore we have frustration because some of the significant cases are dropping. I want to give an example. One of the people who was nabbed in the Westgate attack in Nairobi went through court and was released because there was a technicality in the judgment. There was a technicality in the judicial process that led to his release. This guy went back to the community, he hibernated, and came back and conducted the Dusit attack. That officer who was involved in that process stands a very frustrated man because he says, why would the judge release a man who I risked my life to go and arrest and apprehend and take to court? The other thing that we are noticing is that we need to enhance the capacity of all the state actors within the judiciary process who are working on these cases. You find that many of them are receiving new cases to handle, but they do not have the practice and the skills to do so. For example, the magistrates are telling us the evidence being brought to court is even risky. Is risky evidence because it may be explosives that are brought to court, and the people who are bringing those explosives as evidence may not be experts at handling that evidence in court. So it provides an opportunity or another risk to that environment. The other is that we need to increase learning across the various jurisdictions. People who have engaged with these city laws, it's time that we start looking at how that learning happens. And even encouraging that the judicial criminal justice actors read the laws or read the judgments and see where the shortfalls are coming through. I also want to talk about the legal requirements of prosecuting some of these cases. For example, the intelligence that has been collected by the local agencies and the international agencies, that intelligence is not going to the court. The prosecutors do not have that intelligence. So there's that Evidence Act procedure that also needs to be looked at. Finally, I want to mention that with the increasing city legislation and the increasing laws that are coming up across because of the increasing global threat, we are also, as CSOs, realizing the impact of a shrinking space. Our work and ability to engage with these individuals at risk is also becoming very limited because of the increasing regulations that are hindering us from going on as we would have wished to engage. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Search for Common Ground. We would now like to invite Palestine to also share your perspectives on this. Thank you.
أولاً نشكر كينيا على حسن استضافة هذه الورشة ومكتب الأمم المتحدة لمكافحة الإرهاب. السيدات والسادة مع حفظ الألقاب، ما نود أن نقوله في فلسطين بأن محاربة الإرهاب يجب أن تكون في هناك جذور للإرهاب وأسباب حقيقية داعية لمن يقوم بالعمل الإرهابي. وإذا لم نعالج الأسباب الحقيقية لمكافحة آفة الإرهاب فإن كل الحلول تكون جزئية أو مجتزأة. هناك قضايا هامة جدا علينا أن ننظر إليها بعين الاعتبار. أولها الاحتلالات الأجنبية، وهي سبب رئيسي من مسببات الإرهاب. الصراعات الإثنية والقوميات المختلفة اللي موجودة في بلداننا يجب أن ننظر إليها أيضا نظرة ملية حتى نستطيع أن نعالج مثل هيك قضايا، وحتى ما نترك مجال للإرهابي أنه يخطط لعملياته الإرهابية. أيضا القضايا السياسية، لما نقول الاحتلالات الأجنبية هي سبب رئيسي من أسباب الإرهاب، وأيضا الاستراتيجية العالمية أو الأممية للأمم المتحدة أيضا بتحكي عن هذا الموضوع، وبتحكي إذا لم نعالج هذه الأسباب فإن آفة الإرهاب ستبقى قائمة. الشباب الفلسطيني هو شباب مثقف متعلم، وحينما تم انتشار وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي سعت دولة فلسطين جاهدة، ومن خلال الجامعات وضعت البرامج، من خلال المؤسسات التعليمية أيضاً، مدارس، معاهد، مساجد، لحث الشباب على أخذ دورهم. كمان خفضت نسبة الترشح للانتخابات 5 سنوات نزلت فيها، من أجل أنه الشباب الفلسطيني يأخذوا دورهم سواء في انتخابات رئاسية أو انتخابات تشريعية أو انتخابات لأي مؤسسات مجتمعية داخل المجتمع الفلسطيني، حتى يأخذ الشباب الفلسطيني دوره في العملية التنموية. الشاب الفلسطيني شاب طموح، محب للحياة، وأيضاً محب للحرية، محب أن يكون بلده حرة مستقلة مثل بقية الشعوب في العالم. عندما يخرج من مدينة إلى أخرى أن لا يجد حاجزاً على الطرقات، عندما يريد الذهاب إلى دولة أخرى على المعابر والحدود أن لا يوقف وأن لا يعتقل على هذه الحدود والحواجز. هذه المؤثرات والمؤشرات كلها تشير بأن وجود الاحتلال هو سبب رئيسي وعنصر أساسي، رغم أنه كل مقاومتنا الآن سلمية، تظاهرات سلمية من أجل إسماع صوتنا للعالم، إلكم أيها المجتمعون، بأن فلسطين هي آخر احتلال موجود في العالم، ويجب أن ينتهي هذا الاحتلال. وكثير من المنظمات الإرهابية تتخذ من الأقصى ومن فلسطين عنوان إلها إنه مش محلولة قضية فلسطين، مش محلولة قضية المسجد الأقصى والقدس الشرقية اللي بنسعى إنها تكون عاصمة لفلسطين، ما زالت قائمة. هذه التنظيمات الإرهابية، الاحتلال يزول ولكن الأفكار الإرهابية تبقى باقية. علينا أن نعالج هذه الأفكار. الاحتلال مهما طال عليه الزمن، وبلدان أخرى في إفريقيا وآسيا وأوروبا كانت محتلة ومستعمرة، انتهى الاحتلال، ولكن الأفكار لا تنتهي. علينا أن نقاوم هذه الأفكار بطرق سليمة. الثروات يجب أن تكون في عدالة في الثروات. خلوا النفط لأصحابه وخلوا الذهب في إفريقيا لأصحابه، مع أنه إحنا مع المشاركة بهاي الثروات. هذه الاقتصاديات يجب أن تأخذ دورها، والشباب يجب أن تأخذ دورها في بلدانها، ويجب أن يكون لها حرية واستقلال. المعالجات الواهية لا تحل مشكلة الإرهاب. جذور الإرهاب واضحة، إن جميعاً حتى نكون صريحين وواضحين، لا فوضى في الشرق الأوسط ولا فوضى في إفريقيا ولا فوضى في أي دولة في العالم. من يبشر بالفوضى هو من يريد أن يعزز الإرهاب. والسلام عليكم.
Thank you very much. As we wrap up with this session, I would like to invite Street Radio for their intervention. Thank you very much. in that case, I think we have one person remaining. I think it's CSO.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Hassan Mwalewa Ali. I come from an organization called I Choose Life Africa, which is based in Kenya. I would like to share some of the strategies that we have used, which maybe some of the other organizations and maybe at the regional level can also pick. At I Choose Life Africa, we mostly deal with young people. We try to enhance and empower the lives of the young people who we find in Kenya as some of the most vulnerable population. So one of the things that I Choose Life Africa in every implementation or in every program that we do is to have a quadrihelix model, whereby when we go to a community or a county, let's say Nairobi County, we try to form a quadrihelix board which comprises of the government, academia, the industry, and the CSO. So part of the thing is that we came up with is that the cooperation within the four sectors is very key to implementation of any program, and including the VE program. Currently, we work closely with the Office of the President in terms of having, if some of us can understand, he was appointed or he was anointed by the UN as the Global Young Youth Ambassador. And we are taking his vision of empowering the young people, and we currently we have a vision of empowering 1 million young people by 2022. But why do we need to include all these four pillars? Is that because the government is the custodian of the country, and most of the things that we need for legal and in terms of legal to be legalized is it has to come from the government. If it's any policies that we need to push, it's through the government. One of the things is that we launched with the government, the Ministry of Education, a policy in terms of in the education sector for mentoring the young people. The academia is also key, whereby the research that we do as we implement is also important. We found that it's important for it to include the academic, that is the universities, in order for them it can be published and which the information can be shared widely, instead of doing the research and the impact evaluations and putting them in our own libraries. The industry is key, and unfortunately I have not heard it being said or emphasized in this conference, is that much of these opportunities that we want for the young people, much of them do not come only from the government or from the non-governmental agencies, but much of them, to our understanding, is that the industry is key and provide much opportunity to the young people, and they are key stakeholders in any program that we do, including the PVE program. If some of the highlighted drivers of PVE is lack of opportunity among the young people, then the industry or the business sector need to be very much involved and given favorable grounds in order to operate and offer much more opportunities to the young people in order to also reduce the prevalence of radicalization among the young people. The CSOs are also important. They mostly carry the agendas and also keep the government, to push the government in terms of the different policies, and also in such area like PVE. So the other thing that I wanted to include also is that we need to incorporate young people in every project that we are doing, in every business that we are doing. Most of the things that are being done, or most of the intervention by government or different CSOs or the non-governmental agencies, that they just plan the projects and everything, and then go dump it to the young people as just as beneficiaries. We need to change the narrative, and that we need to take the young people into the planning desk, that we can plan in the same table, and whatever we are trying to plan or maybe to run down or to implement, is that they also have an input to that, so that it brings ownership among themselves, the young people, and they can carry that, and it will be more effective in terms if it is implemented. So these two cuts across to the PVE programs that we run, or the CPVE programs. For whatever that you're doing, or whatever the kind of people, young people that you're targeting, we need to bring them on board, plan with them, decide what kind of a thing we want to do, let them decide what they want to do, okay? If they want to play football, if they want to engage in theater, if they want to run any other kind of activity, it will be up to them, and they will own it, and it will be much more influential to other young people when they see some of the young people whom they know and they respect, they're the ones who are driving the change within their society. And also, another thing that we need also to recognize is that instead of establishing new structures in the local communities, there are already existing structures. For example, in Kenya, we have the sub-county peace committees, which are responsible for, maintaining peace and safety, and of course, also deliberation in terms of where there are conflicts. Instead of guys, if you have a PVE programming, which also cuts across through security and safety, it is also a good thing that we strengthen the already existing structures within the communities so that we reduce on the cost to become cost effective, and also it brings out the sustainabilities for the project, and also it gives much more impact than running a project for 2-3 years and then one disappears. So because it's run by the government, it will be something that can be sustainable and last for longer. And then lastly, something that of practice that we have tried is also to form what we call sub-county security advisory committees, whereby we understand as much as we work with the young people at the center, but also they do not exist alone, and there are other people around the community that are also key in determination and maybe successful of a given program. So at the sub-county security advisory, we try to have key leadership within the community, the religious sector, the young people, some of the key young people in the community, the security agencies, the administration within their community. They also compromise the sub-county security advisory committee, which then review some of the issues within the community time to time. So that is what we have been doing, as maybe some of the strategies, maybe some of I can share as I Choose Life Africa. And also we need to build much more for the young people to be more of a job creating agents rather than just giving jobs to them. And we as young people need to take up initiative and also be hardworking and establish these job opportunities. So one of the things that we try so much in terms of maybe creating much more employment is to have boot camps where we try to train young people in business in terms of pitching. How do they pitch in 1 minute, 2 seconds? How can you sell your business idea to an investor or to someone else? So we take them through that, and our ideas when we engage with them is that we do not, we emphasize them not to have a local mentality of maybe having a very small idea. We want that idea to grow and become an SME at the end of 6 to 1 year. So those are some of the remarks that I can give us at Choose Life Africa, and maybe we really appreciate for being part of this conference, and for the organizers we say thank you so much, and we appreciate for every effort that you have put in place for organize such kind of a conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And to wrap up this amazing session, we would like to invite Jane Likimani from the Office of the UN Coordinator in Kenya. Thank you very much.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I work in the Office of the Resident Coordinator here in Kenya. And we've been working very closely with UNICEF and with World Bank on something called the Generation Unlimited Partnership Platform. It's something that keeps coming up a couple times in the conversations from people here, that the President of Kenya has been named as one of the leaders of the Generation Unlimited platform. And I also will make mention that one of the co-chairs here today is also a member of the board of this partnership platform. It's something which really looks at how we can engage young people in 3 different areas. One is ensuring that they're either in school, in training, or in employment stroke entrepreneurship, which would address many of the things that have come up here today. As it stands right now, Kenya is going to be one of the pilot countries that they'll be rolling out in, just to see how this will pick up, how governments can engage. And one of the key partners, as has just been mentioned by the previous speaker, is the private sector. And indeed, it hasn't seemed to come up too much in the conversation here today. But in order to be able to engage young people in employment, internships, keeping them in a place which is positive, which helps them to grow as individuals and see themselves as people who can influence their society positively, I think it's very critical that we engage the private sector. We're really close to the end of time, so I won't say too much more at this point, but I would encourage you to look up Generation Unlimited. It's got very many ways in which governments and private sector and the NGOs can engage. The whole point, as again somebody else mentioned, with the number of young people that this continent has, it's critically important that we capture them while they're still youth and channel their energy in ways that will be useful to them and to the future of our continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much for closing the session with a very nice and strong remark, which brings most of the conversation we've had in the room today together. And I must say that on behalf of my co-chair, that these conversations have actually touched very key issues, and which focuses on recommitting on supporting young people, reaffirming support from the government, from international NGOs, from young people themselves to collaborate to ensure that young people are at the forefront of this process. And here the panelists have shared real-life examples of what they have been doing. And of course, we've heard also from the remarks which we've had of what is happening in countries and many amazing things. But I think on behalf of the young people that we are representing here today, I'm sure if we had a thousand of them in this room, the one thing they would say is that we should walk the talk and not just talk and talk and talk. And so I'm calling upon us on behalf of my peers that I represent here today to say that we are ready to collaborate with you, for us to be partners to ensure that these amazing ideas, these powerful commitments are taken into consideration right at the grassroots level, where we have the challenges where young people are being victimized. And to tell you one important thing that, I always say is that young people are ambassadors of peace and change and not agents of violence. Thank you very much. I want to thank the government of Kenya for making this possible, and the Office of UNOCT for bringing us together and for giving young people an opportunity to chair this amazing conversation. Thank you very, very much.
Distinguished delegates, just a point of information. We will now adjourn for lunch between 1 and 3 o'clock. It's an open lunch, so please take advantage of the dining facilities here at UNON. And then we will convene sharply here at 3 o'clock. So please, we have a very important session, the fourth session, which is in building new partnerships between African countries in regard to CT, counter-terrorism, prevention of violent extremism, based on the African Union Peace and Security Architecture. So we will have a very distinguished panel, and it will be a very important panel in regard to the way forward in terms of building new partnerships, as I said, based on the AU Peace and Security Architecture. So we'll be very much appreciative if you come here on time, fully participate, and then we will move straight from there in the afternoon to the final and most important session, which is the concluding session, where we will have the distinguished Cabinet Secretary of Interior of Kenya and the Under-Secretary General Voronkov conclude with the Chair's summary of this two-day conference. So we look forward to seeing you back here in full strength this afternoon at 3 o'clock sharp. Thank you very much indeed.